What's happening, everybody? Welcome. Make sure make sure everything's in order here. Hold on. I can never tell. Uh, okay, that looks in order. That looks in order. That that looks. I don't know. I don't know if that is or not. Uh, Bam. What's up? How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the lab slash. I guess it would be. I don't know. It's definitely after dark. It's before dawn. So anyway, how's everybody doing? Good to see you. Good to be here. It's a late one. I had a somewhat of a busy afternoon, and then then you got to take care of Otis, who needed his. I wouldn't say it's a bi-weekly bath. Right now it's weekly because he's so disgusting and he's such a pain. But I mean, it just takes it all out of you. He's just insufferable. First of all, he hates being bathed, and he's got a special shampoo that he can't stand. And I can't stand it either because when he shakes his head, it gets in my eyes and it burns. And he does that way more. It's like he does it way too often. Like it's almost like he's doing it on purpose, You'll try. Well, that might be a deal, Mary. I got to tell you, I would consider doing that. Also, if you haven't, we can put it in the chat. But I was on Mr. and Mrs. E's Crime Cast show earlier. We had a great time, or at least I had a great time. I don't know if they did or not, but I did. And I'm a self-centered person, so. But I'm just kidding. I think we all had a good time. It was a great discussion. They were very nice people. They're very nice people. I'm enjoying getting to know them a little bit. And yeah, they're just they're good people with great hearts. And I appreciate them. And I appreciate them having me on. So. Double scoop of Josh. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. I see some of you in the chat saying you saw it. It was good. I thought so. I'm on the night train. Choo, 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 choo. Yeah, it was. It was cool. I enjoyed it. What's a great show? Um, I like The Sopranos. I don't know. What about you? Like The Sopranos? I am hatless. That's true. No hat tonight. I don't wear a hat every night. Yes, I had a good time with the E's. I always have a good time with the E's. What show? Well, why don't first of all, you should stay for this one first and foremost. Then after that, check it out. But we'll run it in the. I'm sure. See, Mary's already on it. Good job. Thank you, Mary. Big win. I never catch you live. Don't ask why I'm up now. Well, I know why you're up because you're in the lab. That's why. Okay. That's why. I don't think it's the best show. I don't think it's the best show. Um, but it's up there. It's like one of the better ones for sure. And thank you, Melissa, for gifting a lab membership. Who got that? I want to see who got that membership. Hello from Belgium. Holy crap. I haven't had a waffle in so long. I would love a Belgian waffle. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. Jerry Lynn, 8 months. Thank you, Jerry Lynn. Appreciate it. Look, it's Canadian Mama Bear. Love you, Josh. Cage is heart wrenching. It's beyond anything I've ever. It's just the ups and downs and mostly downs at this point. Not a lot of ups. And Kimalia 62. I don't know if I said that right, but I tried my damnedest. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Suzette in the house too. What's up, Suzette? Local celebrity. That's true. You have been here for years. Let me just check out. Yeah. Cool. Yes, and Kelly K, how are you? Good to see you. Canadian Mama Bear, thank you so much for that. That's very kind. I appreciate it very much. Josh, you look handsome without your hat. Well, it's kind of a mirage because I got a haircut. So it doesn't really count, but I appreciate the compliment. But that's all it is, really, to be honest with you. See, hi, Josh. This is Melissa from Australia. Hi, Melissa. How are you? Good to see you. Was it close? Was it? I was close. All right, I was close. So anyway, like I said, are your glasses on your forehead or do I? They were on my forehead, yeah. I'm not good at wearing my glasses. I have like 3 pair, different kind. I'm supposed to wear them. I have astigmatism. You know, that's just like one of 100 different things that are probably wrong with my eyes. But my grandmother used to tell me that it used to terrify me. She said I was going to go blind from sitting too close to the TV. And I don't know. She might be right. I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I'm like, I don't know. What a terrible thing to say. I used to tell her all the time. That's so mean. You're going to go blind. That's what she would say. You're going to go blind from sitting too close to the TV. And the worst part is, I think she actually believed it. I think that she was dead serious. I think that she was baiting me. But at the same time, I think she sort of believed that I would go blind. But, you know, what a terrible thing to say, huh? You're gonna go blind. I know. It's like whatever. I never understood it, but she did. You're gonna go blind. Yeah, I wear glasses. Absolutely. I've worn them since high school, but like I said, they told me that I had astigmatism, whatever that is. Okay, so it sounds like all these evil parents got together and said just like maniacal stuff to try and scare the children to not sit close to the TV. And I don't like that. I'm against that. I'm anti that. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell my grandchildren that the closer that you sit to the TV, the better your eyesight will be. What are you going to do about that? Huh? Huh? What are you going to do about that? Anyway. All right, here we go. So, I guess there's some interesting stuff today. I don't know if there is or not. In the Nancy Guthrie case, although it's just, you know, it's hard to know what is important and what's not. But I guess they have a car now that's sort of in the area. I'll do it. I'm not kidding. I will say that. And it'll be Peyton's child, and Peyton will go, "Dad, don't say that." And I'll be like, "You be quiet. And if you talk back to your dad, then you're going to go blind." And then he'll say, "But I'm an adult." And I'll just say, "Well, whatever. You're still going to be blind as an adult." Kia Soul. Is that what they're saying? Okay, well, let's see here. Let's just hop in. Time to hop in here. Hopping on in. I have astigmatism, not exactly life altering. Well, I didn't say it was life altering, but still, I still have it. Little Miss Sharon's in the house. What's happening?
26 in the desperate search for Nancy Guthrie with still no sign of the missing 84-year-old. But we are seeing some interesting new activity at the Guthrie's Tucson home tonight. It all unfolded a few hours ago. It's the latest in a surge of activity at the property over the last 24 hours as law enforcement reportedly prepares to turn Nancy Guthrie's home back over to her children. Officials are reportedly acknowledging that they no longer need to seal the home as a crime scene or restrict the family from entering.
I am a little bit, I guess I'm a little confused, but, you know, I've been confused most of this case.
This all comes as the FBI is also reportedly reducing the number of agents in Tucson investigating Guthrie's disappearance. They are relocating its command post to its Phoenix office. So does this suggest the investigation is...
Wait a minute. Say what? Really? Don't do that to me. How am I supposed to focus now? Now I'm going to end up. Was he on with Vinny? You're going to make me play it, and then I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to get all these remarks. Josh, you're so snarky. Josh, you're such a jerk. Josh, I can't help myself. What do you want me to do? It's like a dog with a bone. I got to have it.
Slowing down with the search for Guthrie in its fourth week and little to no breaks in the case. Not if you ask the FBI, which says it has gotten more than 1,500 brand new tips since Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie offered a reward of up to $1 million for information leading to the recovery of her mother.
Yeah, the thing is that I think Nancy, I think that she's missing, So I think that's what happened. It's I think she's missing. Vinny, well, what do you think? Because I think she's missing, but I gotta tell you, if I think she's missing
for information. And because she's a family's beloved matriarch who vanished without a trace on February.
Now, donate memberships in the chat. If you don't donate, the show will not survive. Okay? I don't even know why I have to bring it up. Okay?
First. For more on all this, let's go now to Brian Enton, who's live in Tucson. Brian, your cameras caught some pretty surprising activity at Nancy Guthrie's house late today. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there's been a lot going on at the house today, Elizabeth. Not like what we saw yesterday with law enforcement, but instead there were contractors here who were putting up new surveillance cameras, which we saw them doing on several different sides of the house. They were up on the roof. You can see people coming and going from what appeared to be almost like a pickup truck. There was also a Jeep that arrived where someone got out and kind of didn't want to be seen and was sort of like hiding their face and went in through the garage. But like you said, it seems they are in the process now of getting the house ready to turn over back to the family, which would make sense why they would want to put new surveillance cameras up once the Pima County Sheriff is not out here.
I wasn't asking people to donate memberships. I was making fun of somebody who does that. It's okay.
Any longer, keeping an eye on things. Also, we learned a little more yesterday, Elizabeth, a little more about what happened yesterday with all the law enforcement activity. I know that it was a Pima County Sheriff's detective, one of the people we saw out here yesterday. There was also the U.S. attorneys, so federal prosecutors who were here touring the house, which is interesting. They just put out a statement a little while ago just saying that they work with the FBI and that they want to do everything they can to bring Nancy home. But overall, it seems they are just doing final preparations now before officially turning the home back over to the Guthrie family.
All right, Brian Enton reporting live from Tucson. It's hard to, between that and the FBI pulling some agents back, it just feels like things are really slowing down.
God, let's just get it out of the way. That way we can hit our stride. I'm going to do was he on for the whole show? I can't watch a whole show. I can only do, I don't know, like a few minutes. Let's see where, oh, geez. It's already funny, dude.
TMZ founder Harvey Levin had this to say about the ransom notes on his network. Take a listen.
This is a highly sophisticated demand involving a form of crypto, not Bitcoin. Now, it is demanding roughly the same amount as the demand letter we received, shortly after the kidnapping, the $6 million demand. The demand graphically
can be.
And you've got the sophisticated notes that are being described by Harvey Levin. What does it add up to? That brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why was Nancy Guthrie taken? Joining me, private investigator, founder of Victim News Online, Erica Morse is here, and creator and host of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Gray Hughes is with us. Great to see you both here. Gray, I know you always have a lot of theories. You're always diving into these things. What are your thoughts on the why of it?
You know, I guess the why is the question I wish.
Is that a breathe right nasal strip on his head? What the frig is that? Why is there a breathe right nasal strip on his headphones? Does he know that it's there? Is it on purpose? What the hell is that? Did that come off of his visor?
You know, there's like three different reasons. You might say that it was an abduction for ransom that went wrong. It was an abduction to make somebody feel a certain, you know, to make it look like it was an abduction for ransom, but it really wasn't.
I care. That's who cares. I care. That's why I asked. If you don't care, I don't care. But that's why I asked. So you can frig right off.
To create the situation, you know, with the family, with Savannah being so upset that maybe it was directed towards her. That part's hard to say, but I'd like to throw out this, you know, the theory where
Let it fly.
At one, yeah. So on what?
Yeah.
At 147, you see him near the camera. He doesn't care that he's being filmed. You can just tell he doesn't care that he's being filmed at all. He's just looking for something to cover the camera. And the reason he's looking for something to cover the camera is because he's going to be pulling a car up right in the background there to bring Nancy out of the house. So I think you can look at that and say that that is actually what he was going to do. Then I think once he removed the camera, he walked away for a while to see if law enforcement would show up. Then at about like 2:07, after waiting about 20 minutes or so, he drove the car and parked it right there. And then he goes around the back of the house, jumps over the fence, and then at 2:12, the camera in the back.
So this is his theory. Okay.
Picks up the motion. Then he goes inside the house, confronts Nancy, however that went down. And then as they're coming out the door, he's to her right, and she kind of bent over, coughed a little bit, and he's having her walk out at gunpoint to the vehicle that he had right there. And at 2:28 is about exactly that same time when her pacemaker disconnected from her cell phone. So it just absolutely makes sense if you look at it like that.
And that's it. That's final. The whole thing is solved. Okay. All right. Now let's donate some memberships.
Erica Morse, how are you seeing all?
How do you come up? Well, I could probably did a bunch of lithium and then hallucinate.
This is there a clear why at this point, or is that something that we won't know until we get a suspect?
Oh no, that's actually a two-part question, Vinny. And the first part of that is she was taken because her disappearance solved a problem. That's why she was taken. Now it's identifying who benefited from her disappearance. Because that's what we have to look at in investigations. This is about victimology at this point. I understand that Gray's working off of a theory, so are 500 other analysts. You know, I work with a lot of content creators, Vinny, and my friend Prof always says, there are too many what ifs. When you're throwing out theories, too many what ifs. So go back to what you know. And what we know statistically is 1 to 2% of all abductions are random, are stranger abductions. 98% roughly are not. And we know in victimology that she was taken because her disappearance solved a problem for someone. So now it's up to the FBI through these 2 unknown DNAs. Hopefully that genealogy comes back.
I don't know,
And we will
but I've never seen her before. Has anybody seen this lady before?
determine who that
Okay.
person is, hopefully, that will benefit from her disappearance.
Greg, how confident are you in the way the investigation has progressed, and specifically with the 2 entities, right, Pima County and the FBI working? Do you get the feeling they're working together, or do you think there are some issues there that people have been talking about that may slow down the progress?
I mean, it does seem like there's issues, except when you listen to the sheriff talk about it, he seems to deny that there's problems, but then other reporters who are speaking with the FBI side, anonymously, I guess, have sort of a different take on it. There was one thing I did want to throw out there for your audience, is that the blood trail, apparently there's been new reporting.
Hold on, I got to see this. I got to see, what do the comments say? People forget. Was there a live chat? God, I wish there was. Oh, wait. Yeah. Here's the live chat. Hold on.
Where the blood droplets are actually in the home.
Ooh.
Okay, so there's droplets in the home, out the door, and then Fox News actually had images of the blood droplets all the way down onto the gravel path leading right to where the driveway is. So that's what's all informing, the theory that I have. I use just the facts of the case to theorize. So every single thing that you're
Sure.
Hearing from me is based on the facts of the case. But yeah, I'm not really confident in the sheriff. Him running the show. It doesn't. I mean, I wish the FBI had this control this from the get-go and was running it.
Yeah, Erica, I know you've been
opinion.
involved in some cases where there's been conflicts within law enforcement, sometimes members seeing things differently and not necessarily getting along. What are your thoughts here and how this is progressing with, the feds, who are now apparently moving their central operation back to their home base of Phoenix, out of Tucson and Pima County?
I think that this is the strangest case we've ever seen in terms of the amount of resources. I mean, I've been doing missing persons cases now for 15 years, Vinny, and I've never seen the White House make an official statement on social media. All eyes are on this case, and therefore the amount of pressure that this.
Thank you, Mary, for gifting 5 lab memberships. Thank you very much. Yeah, you probably saw.
Sheriff feels must be beyond overwhelming. I've worked high-profile cases as an investigator, and everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks that somebody's doing something wrong. However, that being said, because of the amount of attention, let's just throw every resource from the FBI available. And it's okay for a sheriff, no matter of a small town or a large city, to admit when they are in over their heads on a case. It's okay for them to ask for that help. It's okay for them to say, we're not specialized in this area. Maybe we need to turn it over to the folks who are.
Yeah. Erica Morris, Victim News Online. Thank you so much. Gray Hughes Investigates. Make sure you check it out on YouTube. Coming up next.
Wow. Uneventful. La la la. Very, very uneventful, but that's okay. Fredo. More Fredo. Cajun Navy. Okay, let's see what this guy has to say.
Search for Nancy Guthrie in the nearly month-long investigation into what happened to her could be entering a new phase today. On Wednesday, our News Nation crews recorded a flurry of law enforcement activity at the 84-year-old's home.
I like Vinny a lot. I think he's great.
A day after.
I just don't know why Gray's on there.
Today's show host Savannah Anna Guthrie offered a $1 million reward to find and return her mother. Joining me now is Incident Commander for the United Cajun Navy, Josh Gill, the volunteer search and rescue organization specializing in finding missing persons and aiding in natural disasters. Josh, a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for your time. I could be totally wrong here because I know law enforcement keeps a lot of things close to the vest, but as an outsider, it does seem as though the case is starting to run cold. What's your read on where the investigation stands and why did you decide to go in now?
Well, ma'am, first of all, thank you for having me this morning. I really don't see where the case is going cold. I see where the case is somewhat at a steady state. I'm not super familiar with the clues or the tips or what law enforcement is currently working on. And what we did was we decided to come and try and get a face-to-face sit down with the sheriff to offer our services. Again, our organization is a force multiplier, additional boots on the ground with some additional resources that we could provide.
And did you meet with Sheriff Nanos?
We have not met personally with him.
Okay. I'm curious, tell us a bit more about how your team works and what are the odds that you unearth a lead or a clue that these hundreds of other federal law enforcement agencies and local law enforcement agencies haven't uncovered yet?
Well, ma'am, we remain extremely confident, again, with the services that we can provide and the resources that we have. It's nothing extremely out of the ordinary what we have. We've got thermal drones.
I don't know if I've ever seen a volunteer group pander on TV to get invited into a case. I don't know if I've ever seen EquiSearch do it or not. I don't know.
We've got teams that specialize in search and rescue, search and recovery, as well as specific canine dogs, both sense specific as well as water and land HRD dogs. Again, what we want to do is we want to fall under the command and control of the local law enforcement and follow their lead. But there's a lot of things that we can do. Again, being a force multiplier, we can eliminate a lot of the areas through grid searches and stuff of that sort.
As I mentioned right off the top, I mean, United Cajun Navy has a strong track record in, natural disaster zones, missing persons cases. How much harder does a case get as time goes on, and particularly in a place like Arizona where the weather and harsh elements are bearing down on whatever evidence might be left in that area?
Sure, that's a great question, ma'am. And again, we have been extremely successful as of late with finding some missing people, both children and adults. It's an extremely tough terrain. It's a very challenging terrain. The weather's, again, plays a huge factor, as well as the vastness and the time that goes by. Again, every minute, every second, every hour that goes by, potential clues are eliminated, and then the search expands, right? So right now,
he's the United Cajun Navy, but I think that we read yesterday that there was like dozens of entities called that.
She could be anywhere.
I don't care about that much. Let's see here. What are we doing? We doing Banfield? Shit. Or let's watch what Enton says first.
Thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. It is now day 26 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. It is Thursday. I'm outside Nancy's house. It's kind of just one house behind me. A couple of big developments today. First of all, there's this new surveillance video that captures a car. Now, this is about 2 miles or so from Nancy's house. But the time frame of when this car went by this Ring camera could be significant because it seems to match up with when we know.
Why is it always 2 miles? The glove's 2 miles. Now this is 2 miles.
That Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. So I'm going to get into the surveillance video, what it means.
2 miles is not that close.
It's also interesting that the sheriff's office apparently did not have the video up until today. So I'll go through the latest on that. Also, there was a lot of action again at Nancy's house. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement. I saw a homicide detective, and then also prosecutors were there. Well, today there were people putting up new surveillance cameras, and there are indications that law enforcement is getting ready to turn the house back over to Nancy's family. So I have all the video of everything that happened at the house today. I'm going to get into all the latest. Again, it's day 26 in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, so again, I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house. It's quieter out here. Not as much media now that these new parking rules have gone into effect. But there's still some of us out here that have managed to get over here. And it's interesting, some of the neighbors even just came up to me a little while ago and they're like, oh, we're so happy you're still here if you need a ride or you want to like use a golf cart or something, which is super nice. But I want to get to a couple of the big developments. First of all, this new surveillance video. This video was obtained by Fox Digital and by my friend Mike Ruiz, who is an excellent reporter. And it's surveillance video from a Ring camera from about 2.5 miles away from here, from Nancy's house. But if you look at the map, you can see how it would be a way to avoid main roads and kind of leave the area. I mean, there's a couple of ways, but this would be one way. And this the surveillance video caught a lot of cars the morning of February 1st. But this specific video of this car going by is especially interesting because it's from 2:36 a.m. on February 1st. And remember, it was at 2:28 a.m. that Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app showed that it was disconnected from her phone. So that would be 2:28 to 2:36. And it is about a 7-minute give or take drive from Nancy's house here where I'm sitting to where this video comes from. So the timing is really, really interesting. We don't know. This could be totally not connected. There's no way to know for sure. But the timing is interesting and the route is interesting. And it's kind of shocking that the people who own this house that have the Ring camera say that the sheriff's office and FBI never came by to get this video. So it wasn't until Fox Digital obtained the video and then sent it to the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office that I'm told that they now have the video. We haven't heard about whether it's significant, whether they think it's important to the investigation. I mean, like I said, it could totally not be. I mean, it could be totally irrelevant, but the timing is interesting here because if you look at the map again, it's about a 7-minute drive, give or take. And we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone at 2:28 a.m. And then the video, this specific video is from 2:36 a.m.
Wait a minute.
So the timing would match up. There's also other videos.
So he's saying that they had this video and they wanted to turn it over to the sheriff's department, but the sheriff's department never came to get it. Am I correct in that assumption? Just waiting for confirmation here because I wanted to make sure. I don't want to go back, but I don't. Or was it the FBI who didn't collect it?
Videos on the web office that I'm told that they now have the, and it's kind of shocking and interesting. We don't know. This could be totally not connected. There's no way to know for sure. But the timing is interesting and the route is interesting. And it's kind of shocking that the people who own this house that have the Ring camera say that the sheriff's office and FBI never came by to get this video. So it wasn't until Fox Digital obtained the video and then sent it to the FBI.
Okay, so he said neither the sheriff nor the FBI, but they'll collect a backpack from a homeless encampment. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
And the Pima County Sheriff's Office that I'm told that they now have the video. We haven't heard about whether it's significant, whether they think it's important to the investigation. I mean, like I said, it could totally not be. I mean, it could be totally irrelevant, but the timing is interesting here because if you look at the map again, It's about a 7-minute drive, give or take. And we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone at 2:28 a.m. And then the video, this specific video, is from 2:36 a.m. So the timing would match up. There's also other videos on that Ring camera that show other cars going by before and after, which are also interesting. But again, I'm most interested in this 2:36 a.m. video. So we'll see if the police will comment on it. We'll see if it becomes part of the investigation. But it is something I think for us to keep an eye on. Remember when initially the sheriff's office was asking anyone within a 2-mile radius to send forward video that they had that may have been interesting to them or may have looked unusual. This is about 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house, so it would have fallen outside that radius.
That wasn't a normal thing that was on his head. That looked like a breathe right nasal strip.
But still, it is kind of interesting that no sheriff's deputies went that route and saw that camera, because it's pretty easy to notice. One of my producers has been over there and noticed.
All right, we'll do a poll here. Hold on, let me see. It sucks. I can never do the poll from. Hold on, give me a second. I can't do the poll from StreamYard. I have to do it from somewhere else. But
the camera. Also new today, there's been some action outside of Nancy's house and inside. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement there, and I've confirmed that it was a Pima County homicide detective, and there were prosecutors there, and they were walking around the outside of the house and then inside of the house. And it seems that they are now getting ready to turn the house back over to the Guthrie family, that it is no longer going to be considered a crime scene. I don't know if technically it has really been a crime scene for the last couple of weeks, because it's just been a deputy outside, although they have been keeping an eye on it, but there hasn't been any crime scene tape. But from what we hear, they are getting ready to turn the house back over to the Guthrie family. And it seems that is why yesterday it was almost like a last look for law enforcement that wanted to go by the house. Today, there have been people like contractors putting cameras up, installing cameras, which is interesting, new surveillance cameras around the house. There was also a shot we got of one man that came in the Jeep.
I think it's as good a lead as any.
Clearly didn't want to be seen. I couldn't really.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than the backpack. I agree with you, Jack. 8.45.
Figure out who he was, but he got in the Jeep and left. So it seems they're kind of securing the house in preparation for when it's turned back over to the family and there's not a sheriff's deputy sitting outside.
Yeah, so I think I guess it would have to do with them having they're responsible for the home, and I guess they don't want to be responsible for it anymore. That's just my
anymore, which is the way it's been for the last couple of weeks. Remember, initially it was secured, then it was not secured when we were able to walk up to the front of the house those first couple of days. Then after that, they secured it again with the sheriff's deputy outside. And it's our understanding that they are now getting ready to open it back up and return it to the family, which would make sense, I guess. After 26 days, there's probably not much more processing that they want to do there. There are also reports that Savannah Guthrie may be getting ready to return to New York. I haven't been able to confirm that myself, but that also, I guess, wouldn't be incredibly surprising, since she has, young kids, and she's been here now for almost a month. So the hope is that, some leads will get going here. I mean, it's only been a couple of days since from Nancy's house. But if you look at the map, you can see how it would be a way to avoid this video that captures a car. Now, this is about this new surveillance video that captures a car. Now, this is about 2 miles or so from Nancy's house. But the time frame of when this car went by this Ring camera could be significant, because it seems to match up.
So not a lot of cars travel that road. Is that what's happening here? At that time of night, it's pretty remote. So, but it's still 2 miles away.
With when we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. So I'm going to get into the surveillance video, what it means. It's also interesting that the sheriff's office apparently did not have the video up until today. So I'll go through the latest on that. Also, there was a lot of action again at Nancy's house. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement. I saw a homicide detective, and then also prosecutors were there. Well, today there were people putting up new surveillance cameras, and there are indications that law enforcement is getting ready to turn the house back over to Nancy's family. So I have all the video of everything that happened at the house today. And again, in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, so again, I'm out from about 2.5 miles away.
I gotta take a look at the map
from here. But if you look at the map to avoid main roads and
okay. I have no idea what all right, so okay, so is this map confusing to anybody else? Like, okay, so what is this? Is this Nancy's house? Why is my cursor not showing? God dang it. It's pissing me off. So the circle is Nancy's house. Wait, what? It doesn't make any, it really is. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There's two circles. Okay, so is the blue dot, the blue dot is the car or Nancy's house? I don't know. I think the blue dot is Nancy's. Looks like a hip holster. I don't know what that means. Okay, so the blue dot is the car, or none of us know. I mean, we're all kind of guessing here. Okay, hold on. Let's see if Brian explains it again. No, oh, hold on. You can hear me. I just wanted to get off the map. Can you hear me? What happened? Okay. Good. I mean, what the? Yeah, what is that? Okay, so what's the pin? The pin. Whatever.
And kind of leave the house. But if you look at the map, you can see how it would be a way to avoid main roads and kind of leave the area. I mean, there's a couple of ways, but this would be one way. And the surveillance video caught a lot of cars the morning of. This would be one way.
Okay, so the pin is where. Okay, so this is okay. So the blue dot is the house. And the flag pin where it's marked here is 7 minutes from her home. I mean, was that the only car that was picked up?
And the surveillance video caught a lot of cars the morning of February 1st. But this specific...
They caught a lot of cars.
Video of this car going by is especially interesting because it's from 2:36 a.m. on February 1st. And remember, it was at 2:28 a.m. that Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app showed that it was disconnected from her phone. So that would be 2:28 to 2:36. And it is about a 7-minute give or take drive from Nancy's house here where I'm sitting to where this video comes from. So the timing is really, really interesting. We don't know. This could be totally not connected. There's no way to know for sure. But the timing is interesting and the route is interesting. And it's kind of shocking that the people who own this house that have the Ring camera say that the sheriff's office and FBI never came by to get this video. So it wasn't until Fox Digital obtained the video and then sent it to the FBI.
Yeah, I got to be honest. That map sucked.
And the Pima County Sheriff's Office that I'm told that they now have the video. We haven't heard about whether it's significant, whether they think it's important to the investigation. I mean, like I said, it could totally not be. I mean, it could be totally irrelevant, but the timing is interesting here because if you look at the map again, it's about a 7-minute drive, give or take, and we know.
Back to the map.
Know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone at 2:28 a.m. and then the video, this specific video is from 2:36 a.m. So the timing would match up. There's also other videos on that Ring camera that show other cars going by before and after, which are also interesting. But again, I'm most interested in this 2:36 a.m. video. So we'll see if the police will comment on it. We'll see if it becomes part of the investigation. But it is something I think for us to keep an eye on. Remember when initially the sheriff's office was asking anyone within a 2-mile radius to send forward video that they had that may have been interesting to them or may have looked unusual. This is about 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house. So it would have fallen outside that radius. But still, it is kind of interesting that no sheriff's deputies went that route and saw that camera because it's pretty easy to notice. One of my producers has been over there and noticed.
Yeah, I'm having all kinds of issues over here too, so.
The camera. Also new today, there's been some action outside of Nancy's house and inside. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement there, and I've confirmed that it was a Pima County homicide detective, and there were prosecutors there, and they were walking around the outside of the house and then inside of the house. And it seems that they are now getting ready to turn the house back over to the Guthrie family, that it is no longer going to be considered a crime scene. I don't know if technically it has really been a crime scene for the last couple of weeks because it's just been a deputy outside, although they have been keeping an eye on it, but there hasn't been any crime scene tape. But from what we hear, they are getting ready to turn the house back over to the Guthrie family. And it seems that is why yesterday it was almost like a last look for law enforcement that wanted to go by the house. Today, there have been people like contractors putting cameras up, installing cameras, which is interesting, new surveillance cameras around the house. There was also a shot we got of one man that came in a Jeep that clearly didn't want to be seen. I couldn't really figure out who he was, but he got in the Jeep and left. So it seems they're kind of securing the house in preparation for when it's turned back over to the family and there's not a sheriff's deputy sitting outside anymore, which is the way it's been for the last couple of weeks. Remember, initially it was secured, then it was not secured when we were able to walk up to the front of the house those first couple of days. Then after that, they secured it again with the sheriff's deputy outside. And it's our understanding that they are now getting ready to open it back up and return it to the family, which would make sense, I guess. After 26 days, there's probably not much more processing that they want to do there. There are also reports that Savannah Guthrie may be getting ready to return to New York. I haven't been able to confirm that myself. But that also, I guess, wouldn't be incredibly surprising since she has, young kids and she's been here now for almost a month. So the hope is that, some leads will get going here. I mean, it's only been a couple of days since she announced the $1 million reward. And now with this new surveillance video, maybe that is going to be connected. We don't really know yet. I wanted to talk to my friend and she's also a criminologist and an attorney, Casey Jordan, about all these latest developments. I'm joined now by Casey Jordan, a criminologist and also host of the podcast, Criminal Appeal. It's always nice to see you, Casey. I haven't seen you in a while. I was talking to you all the time and then, got kind of...
You got a little busy, Brian. You got a little busy.
I got busy, but I wanted to ask you first about this new report of there's surveillance video that's come out from a Ring camera around the corner of Nancy's house. Cars going by around the time that Nancy's pacemaker was disconnected around, early morning hours of February 1st. Hard to know for sure if it's connected, but what struck me is that that the people who own the house say that the sheriff's office or no law enforcement has come to them and gotten the video. Does that surprise you 25 days in?
I think that from the outset, there was just this fear that if they put out all call. In other words, everyone who might have any video, send it in, that they would be so flooded with Ring video camera footage, tens of thousands of hours, that they wouldn't have the manpower to go through it. So I think there was a misstep at the beginning by just not saying, between this time and this time, check your Ring cameras, and if you see anything, send it in. There's always been like, okay, we're going to go around and we're going to talk to the neighbors. And then, okay, we're going to go a little bit further out in the circumference of the house asking for footage. And then it's like, oh, now that we have pictures of the guy on the porch, let's everyone go back and look from.
Donna gifted 5 lab memberships. Thank you so much. Very kind of you.
January 1st onwards. But what has been missing is a lot of specificity, if you will. Once they had that 42-minute time frame of the doorbell not working and then going offline. Everybody knows about those 42 minutes in the middle of the night where it appears that an invader was in Nancy's home. The key would have been to look for 3 to 5 hours before that and 3 to 5 hours after that on all cameras in the area.
The whole point is there are only one way into the neighborhood to avoid flock cams, and it's past that house. There was no car seen at that time, flock cams, but there was on that cam. Yeah, I mean, I understand that it's a one way in, one way out street, but I mean, it could have been somebody pulling out of their driveway, or an Uber driving. I'm just saying that I get the time. The timing makes it interesting.
So instead of,
it's about the time that her pacemaker goes offline. That I understand. That makes sense.
building the circumference of families that you're asking to check their Ring cameras, you narrow it down to a time frame. And that way, whoever is reviewing these tips and these pieces of video footage that are given to the sheriff's office actually can cull through them and get the ones that would be most important. But the end of the sentence is, it is alarming to think that neighbors in the area did not have a knock on their door by a representative of the Pima County Sheriff's Office asking them to check their Ring camera footage and reviewing it with them. I think this might be a manpower issue, but in my mind, there's really no excuse.
So I've been away from home for a while for work, and one of the things I miss so much are my Factor meals. They make it so much easier to eat better, and Factor is a sponsor of today's video. Around that 2:30 a.m. time frame, it seems like a time that they would be especially interested. I know people are probably sending in all sorts of video just from all different times, but I don't know. And that it's that close to Nancy's house, it looks like it's around the corner. It just surprises me that I think there was 300 law enforcement personnel, including the FBI, on the ground for the last couple of weeks, that no one knocked on that door. I would have thought they would have knocked on. There's not that many houses in the neighborhood. I mean, the houses are spread out there.
I completely agree. And we know that video solves this faster than DNA. Everything with this case completely changed once we were able to get that back end footage just miraculously stored, in a deep archive that Google helped get from that Nest camera that shouldn't have even been recorded because she didn't have a subscription. We know video solves this time and time and time again. When we saw it with the Ohio dentist case, we've seen it with the shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare. All the time, it's video that almost always solves this. So the idea that people around the corner never got a knock on their door or just a written notice, please check your security footage and call us if you have anything at all, that's disturbing. It just seems like all of this evidence is coming in tardy to the party, and we don't know how many video cameras got overwritten in the first week, because so many of them, if you don't actually pull that footage within a certain time frame, it's lost forever.
Right. Yeah. There are reports now, and I haven't been able to confirm this myself, that Savannah Guthrie may be planning to go back to New York City soon. She's been here in a rental house close by, which, she's got 2 little kids. To me, that's not really surprising. She can't just be away from her family forever. What do you make of that? And do you think, obviously she's in touch with investigators, do you think that's a sign that they're telling her like nothing imminent is about to happen?
Well, Savannah's a very intelligent human being, and she knows that there's only so much she can do. And I would argue that being on site and having no news is worse than being at home, because just being near her mother's house is going to give her that constant sense of urgency. I cannot even fathom the level of stress and the hell that this family is going through. But at a certain point, getting back to your routine and being near family and friends, and just in a situation where everything is familiar instead of surreal, is part of the healing process. I think that we got a really good taste of Savannah's healing process with her last video a few days ago, where for the very first time we heard her articulate, which words kind of seal.
You watch it when eventually she does go home. There will be people that will criticize her for it.
The truth. She articulated that she was accepting that her mother might be lost, may no longer be with us. In other words, might be dead. And even though most of us have been thinking this for several weeks, it was important that we heard Savannah say that. And I think that, it has been such a roller coaster ride, up and down, different pieces of evidence coming in, arrests of people that didn't pan out. Her emotions have got to be completely frayed. So I think that she is now in the space where she has.
I'm not one of those people that would be criticizing at all.
Done and knows she has done as much as she can humanly do. She's communicated, she's asked for tips, she's offered a reward for the recovery even of her mother's body, not even for capture of the kidnapper. And at a certain point, you just get back to your routine. I think it's really.
She has to. Yeah, you'll go crazy. I mean, I'm sure she already is going crazy. I mean, the unfortunate part of this that I think that a lot of people miss that haven't dealt with a tragedy in their lives, or a major tragedy or anything like that, is that life goes on. The world keeps going. The buses still run, planes still fly. That's the terrible part about it, is that but life keeps going. It doesn't just stop, fortunately, and freeze all around you.
Wise.
And as her being a mother, it's a terrible thing. It sucks. I remember when my grandfather, who was in essence my father because he raised me, I remember when he died, and after his funeral, everybody wanted to go bowling, and I was like that night, I was like, I don't want to go bowling. And they said, why? And I said, because I'm sad. And he says, my uncle, he says, you can be sad tomorrow.
And mentally healthy for her to return to New York, her home, be with her kids, and then just start contemplating what her next steps will be.
You spoke about her videos, and I've said this before on my podcast, and I've talked to some other people about it. She seems to be very careful in the way that she talks to this alleged kidnapper when she's addressing that person. I've noticed almost like with a sympathetic tone, which has made me wonder if she thinks, or there's the possibility that this is like someone obsessed with her, or like a stalker who she's trying to kind of like almost communicate with directly. Have you thought about that at all?
Well, initially, like her very first video started by talking to the public, and then she shifted and started talking to whoever might have her mother. So every one of her videos has been a little bit different. And you can be very certain the first one was incredibly scripted by the FBI. I mean, it was like kidnapping 101. I think all of us were kind of like, was that just the line from Silence of the Lambs?
Right.
It was so scripted that I found it to be highly ineffective, just overly contrived. And I don't think that if there is a kidnapper, which by the way, I have a big question mark there, Brian, I don't at this juncture think there is a kidnapper out there per se. I think there is a person who abducted Nancy, but I don't believe at this juncture.
There's a difference.
that if she was removed.
Well, I think what he meant was, you know, you're probably going to be sad tomorrow anyway, so might as well come tonight, even if you're sad, because maybe you won't be sad when you're doing that. I think that was his point.
Moved from the house intentionally instead of as a crime amelioration or cleanup effort, if that makes sense. I think that if somebody had taken Nancy as a grudge against Nancy, and this is me addressing your question finally, if they really were obsessed with Nancy, or sorry, if they were obsessed with Savannah and took Nancy to hurt Savannah, we would know that. Grudge collectors want you to know why they're hurting you. Otherwise, it's pointless. They don't want to just serve revenge up cold. They want you to know, hey, this is why we did it, and you did something wrong, and this is payback. Alternatively, we had the whole theory, which I caught.
Well, I don't think that's true, because people get kidnapped without ransoms all the time. Kids get kidnapped for no ransoms. So that pause. Look at that pause. I mean, I guess I get what she's saying, but the description doesn't make
sense. In the first week too, that it was a kidnapping for profit. But it was very quickly revealed that all of these communications from so-called kidnappers were hoaxes, because nobody could provide proof of life, proof of death, proof that they had Nancy at all in any state. So I think we have been through this roller coaster.
I don't think that's true. Kidnapping is not for ransom. I mean, I just don't think it is. I mean, I guess we're playing semantics here, but I don't think that it's, people get kidnapped all the time without ransom.
And Savannah has tried different techniques with her videos with the coaching of the FBI. But I think the ones we're seeing now are Savannah. And I think that she is now open to the theory that we've been bandying about for a week or two now, that perhaps this was never a kidnapping for profit or a kidnapping for grudge to hurt Savannah. It's not revenge motivated or anything, because we have no proof of life, and we have no communications from anyone that would really support the idea that they took Nancy on purpose with a mission. I think what we are now looking at is the idea that this was a burglary, and probably by an amateur, based on the activities of the guy on the porch, and that perhaps something really bad happened in that house, unanticipated for both Nancy and the invader, in the 42 minutes, because professional kidnappers are like ninjas. They get in, they get out, and then the family gets a notice. They don't call TMZ, and they don't communicate with news stations. They go directly to the family. So
you need an expert to tell you the difference between a kidnapping and an abduction. Okay, whatever you say, Beth.
The fact that we have not heard, and I truly believe that we have not heard from the person who was responsible for Nancy's disappearance. Let's say they got into a scuffle. Let's say Nancy had a heart attack. Let's say Nancy pulled the mask off of the intruder and recognized him as maybe a former employee or something like that. Scratched him, got DNA under her fingernails. God forbid she had a medical emergency and the invader was terrified and gave her mouth to mouth and is like, my DNA is on Nancy. How do you deal with this? This is just a theory. It's speculation. The answer is you've got to get Nancy out of there, because Nancy has the DNA. And this would explain her removal from the house. Alive, unalive, we will never know. But it really, there's so much we don't know about the state of that house on the inside that would really help me with this theory. But not knowing it, I can at least conjecture. And I don't want to hear from people, oh, it's all speculation.
Kidnapping does not always mean a ransom. It just doesn't. There's a million different reasons people kidnap people. If you think, another epic pause, by the way, it's just not true.
Everything is speculation at this point. We've never seen anything like this, but I think more and more people are going with the idea that perhaps this was a burglary gone wrong. Nancy was removed from the house just to cover up evidence, and that only that person knows where she is, and that person's not the least bit interested in $1 million if they've actually gotten away with the crime.
But if it was a burglary gone wrong, you know, now that we've confirmed that that one photo is from a previous day, you remember there was the one with the backpack and then there's the other photo of the suspect outside the front door. Would they have been casing the house days earlier just for like a regular burglary? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So here's my thing about it's from the day before. We don't have timestamps. And even the sheriff has been like, don't follow this theory. There's just purely speculation. The day before could have been 11:55 the night before.
When I don't think it's the day before. So we have sources telling us it's a previous day. I don't know what day it is.
No, Beth,
I think
you're wrong. I don't think you know what you're talking about. I just said that it does not mean that it has to be financially motivated. Kidnapping is removing somebody from a place by force. End of sentence. It can mean for financial reasons or other felonious reasons. Thank you, Beth.
And this is just now I'm speculating, but I think it's going to be January 11th because that we know that the detectives were going around specifically asking the neighbors for video from the night of January 11th. And that date kept coming up. Like, do you have video from January 11th? So that's kind of why I've keyed on that, which if that's the case, that's when that photo's from, that would have been weeks before Nancy went missing. You know, when she was taken.
Make no mistake, burglars always case the joint.
Do they? Okay.
That would make total sense. I guess I'm thrown off because it looks like the same guy and he's wearing the exact same clothing. So for all I know, he approached the door when they say it happened the day before or at a date before. I'm also considering that he walked up on that porch at 11 p.m. the night before she went missing, checked things out.
Yeah.
Went back and got his backpack full of burglary tools or whatever, a clean suit, whatever's in that backpack, and then approached the house again because he seems to be wearing the exact same clothing. I don't know whether it was 2 or 3 weeks before, but let's be clear, burglars case the joint. It is very, 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 very rare, unless they're under the influence of drugs, that they just hop up on a porch and go, I don't know whether somebody's inside or not inside. I'm going to just break in and find out. I do believe whoever went in there did not realize the house was occupied.
And as a criminologist, you always are so interesting because you know about statistics and stuff. I mean,
oh, so she thinks that somebody went in there thinking that it wasn't occupied. Oh.
It just seems is impossible that this is random. I don't know. Like, could this really just be some burglar who decided I'm going to pick this house?
Yes.
And take some old lady?
Yes. He didn't consider that he didn't know who Nancy Guthrie was, right? But did know, maybe from casing the joint or watching Nancy get in and out of her car or whatever, that a little old lady lives there alone. And little old ladies are really great burglary targets because they tend to have a lot of jewelry and easily removable things, sterling silver, okay? They're not big on electronics and stuff that you can't steal and get rid of. Everybody wants gold. Everybody wants precious metals, gems, jewelry, silver. And little old ladies, if he cased this joint and knew that Nancy was there, it doesn't mean he knew that Nancy is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, right? And once I saw the guy on the porch and saw just what an amateur he was. I mean, not at all smart. Goes up, sees the camera. A really accomplished burglar would have turned around and gone and picked a different house.
Yeah.
So that supports the idea that they did know who Nancy was and that it's targeted. And yet at the same time, he may have seen Nancy leave in an Uber earlier that day and not realize that she had come back to the house and thought the house was empty. There's just so much. But I looking at the guy on the porch, this does not seem targeted specifically to Nancy Guthrie to me once I saw what a clown he was. I just think that if this was really about Nancy, it would have been infinitely more professional. And the fact that we don't have her could just be.
All right, I'm going to read this really quick. While often used interchangeably, and I said, is there a difference? Abductions and kidnappings are not strictly the same, with distinct legal differences, intent, consent, and in some contexts, age of the victim, period. Okay. I'm sorry, Beth.
Beginner's luck. It could have been random and it could be beginner's luck.
But that wasn't. So
what do you think happens now? I mean, is this going to be? I keep wondering because I'm obviously still here, and I don't want to leave because I feel like I'm invested. It almost reminds me when I covered Koberger or Gabby Petito. I want to see a resolution here. I don't want to just pick up and go. I want to see something. I'd love to see Nancy come home, obviously, or something. But part of me is like, is this going to be go on for years? Like, what does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me this may go on for years. I think this might be a Natalie Holloway, if you will. And I remember her mother having to make that choice to come back from Aruba. Like, just if I come back from Aruba, people will forget. But no one's ever forgotten Natalie Holloway, even though we still to this day don't know what happened to her. And I think that might be the same with Nancy Guthrie. It depends on whether or not she's still alive. And of course, we all hope she is. But hope springs eternal. I loved Savannah saying we are blowing on the embers, and she will for the rest of her life. But at this point, she just wants answers.
Let's see. Hey, Josh, respectfully, kidnapping also. No, it doesn't also involve. It can also involve. There's a difference. Let's be specific if we're arguing semantics.
And if Nancy is demised, if she is no longer with us, and somebody, I don't know, buried her in the desert, you may have her body discovered accidentally. This happens, by hikers, dogs, whatever. This happens all the time, actually. And that will at least give the Guthrie family some peace.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the crime will be solved. I wouldn't be at all surprised unless we get a tip from a co-conspirator or somebody who actually knows and has the evidence or has a confession. Unless that tip comes in, which could happen with $1 million on the table, I think that this may be one for the tech.
Yes, Joran Vandersloot admitted to being responsible for her death, but the problem was, I guess, that people, because he has lied so many times, that they just, most people believe that he's responsible, and he is responsible for it, and then tried to extort the family for it as well.
Books. We've never seen anything like it before, and we may never solve it.
But he's told many different stories of how she died. He said that she, had some sort of bad reaction to something he gave her, or
That's just so shocking.
I didn't block Beth.
Shocking, though, to think about with the resources of the FBI, the president talking about it. You really think it could go unsolved?
I do. I mean, at any given moment in the United States, 50,000 people are missing, adults and children, cases that are unsolved, people who have never been found. And that's not for lack of us paying attention, although we have paid an inordinate amount of attention to this case. And I really, really love that Savannah brought that up in her last video, and that her family donated $500,000 to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But I mean, it's not that surprising. I mean, 50.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
50,000 people are missing.
It's very, Jen P, I'm very sorry to hear that, by the way. That's a terrible thing.
We don't know what happened to them. And just because Nancy Guthrie is Savannah's mother doesn't mean that she may not join their ranks. It just means that a lot of awful crime goes on: kidnapping, murder, human trafficking, even alive captors that we discover 18 years later, like J.C. Dugard. The mystery is what is going to torment us. But yeah, there's so many people who are never found. And I hate to say, I think Nancy might become one of them because of all the attention that's being paid, but we need to be prepared for that. If she was actually kidnapped for ransom or for revenge, we would have heard from the people who took her by now.
And just kind of back to where I started with this new video, and the fact that the apparently the sheriff still hasn't gotten it.
Why would we need to unblock Beth? She's back in the chat anyway. This is Beth. He's here. Fine. I didn't know. Well, I think I remember the name.
Didn't canvass the neighborhood. Do you think it's fair? I mean, we've been very critical of the sheriff since the beginning. I mean, it seems like there's been
He's the only one that argues with me like that.
lot of issues. Is that fair criticism, do you think?
So I want to give them a bit of a pass by simply saying, I don't think they have ever seen anything like this before. All right. This is really an unusual disappearance. And that's what it is at this point. We have the evidence is clear that she was removed from the house, but the motive for that is still a mystery. We started correctly with the idea that it was a kidnapping. They brought in the FBI, and it's still the Pima County Sheriff's case. The FBI are there in advisory capacity, and there's been a lot of dust up about that. Like, shouldn't the FBI just take it over? There's talk that Savannah and her family wanted to get some private investigators involved.
Sweet soul is Beth. Beth is sweet soul. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. It's fine.
At this point, I think that their mistake was handling it like a homicide case from the beginning.
Ransom is kidnapping, and kidnapping is ransom. Kidnapping is an abduction, and an abduction is kidnapping.
Went in, they took evidence, and then they said, okay, family, you can go back in there. And just because that's policy and procedure doesn't mean that you can't take an extra step to preserve that crime scene, cordon off the entire street. And no offense to the media, but I would have not let them anywhere near that house, right? But it became a circus, a field day. Everybody was like, well, if the sheriff's not going to investigate it, I'll investigate it. People tromping through the desert behind her house, drones and helicopters. It became a bit of a circus. And I have to, if I fault the Pima County Sheriff's Office for anything, it's for not putting the damper on that from the beginning. I don't know that we actually needed all these press conferences. I don't know that we, the general public, need any of these updates. And sometimes too many cooks spoil the broth, so to speak.
Too many cooks spoil the broth. High tides make all the boats rise.
And I think that there were too many people with their fingers in this investigation, and that in the process, important opportunities and important evidence may have been lost.
All right, let's get spicy here. Let's see what old Nancy has to say. Let's see here. Who her guest tonight? Is that guy that she puts on probation? Is he on her show? All right, here we go.
Guthrie missing day 26 as the investigation goes on. This, as we see a flurry of police and FBI activity at Nancy Guthrie's home in the last 24 hours. We know that they brought in an elite video audio team. What were they looking for? Aerial video reveals that they combed the entire estate inside and out with a fine-tooth comb. What was happening? We also learned tonight that there is absolutely a DNA sample found in that home that is not Mrs. Guthrie's, that is not from her inner circle. It is being analyzed right now. We are also learning, did a neighbor unwittingly see the kidnapper?
That's interesting. Hold on one second. I think people, I don't know. I truly don't know. Because, I can admit when I don't know something, but it didn't look like a Range Rover, but I thought it looked like an SUV. Some people are saying Kia Soul, but I think that sort of speculative.
Realizing what she was seeing. And we learned tonight, what does a digital blackout have to do with catching the kidnapper? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
We are hoping that the attention that has been given to our mom and our family will extend to all the families like ours who are in need and need prayers and need support.
A flurry of activity in and out of Nancy Guthrie's home, including federal prosecutors on the scene. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. What happened?
Nancy, it was, you said it, a massive undertaking at Nancy Guthrie's home. Yeah, and it included apparently federal prosecutors on the scene. Here's how it developed, Nancy. As investigator vehicles are pulling up the driveway onto the property of Nancy Guthrie, there is one specific vehicle, a black SUV with all the windows blacked out. This vehicle continues on while the others stop in front of the home on the driveway. This one pulls into the garage. Garage door opens, the car goes in, garage door shuts. We never see who is in that black SUV. It's there for about an hour, and then the garage door opens back up, the car pulls out and takes off down the street. Others are investigators walking around the property. They being investigators, spent about an hour in the entryway.
So it's not illegal to fly drones over the top of people's homes? That's totally fair.
In the front door where that Nest camera picked up the possible suspect in this kidnapping. They spent an hour there. Then the investigations moved into the foyer area of the home and spend another hour or so in that side of the house. But Nancy, we also saw from overhead views that these investigators were walking every piece of the property all around the outside, including a wrought iron gate by the swimming pool. So it's only an easy assumption that they were doing the same.
Yeah, I don't think it can't be all that legal, can it? I mean, maybe it could, but maybe you'd have to stay a certain, I don't know, certain height, because you could fly a drone up right to somebody's window and you don't own the airspace in front of the window.
Same thing inside the house where we couldn't see them. But investigators were there for several hours, and they were federal prosecutors as well as our regular detectives. It was an ongoing event all day long, and don't know what the end result is yet.
To Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us, psychoanalyst out of the LA jurisdiction. She is the author of Deal Breakers. You can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Bethany, thank you for being with us. Dr.
Man, Jenks, what's happening, dude?
Bethany.
Good to see you. I mean, at this point, it's, who knows? I think Hoffa was incinerated personally.
Mrs. Guthrie is an 84-year-old woman. And contrary to speculation online and beyond, it wasn't like "Hi, Mrs. Guthrie, can you let me in?" as she went to the door and allowed the perp in. That did not happen. We now have proof she was dragged from her bed. What would be the response of a normal person, much less an 84-year-old lady in the middle of the night, 2 a.m.? Could she fight back? What I'm trying to get to is there going to be DNA at the bed, on the bed covers, on the pillows, and beyond? Okay, tell me.
So Nancy, remember, whoever did this, if they are kidnappers, they are ruthless. And this is a business-like approach to procuring money from the family of Nancy Guthrie. So she's 84. We have to take into account, did she wear hearing aids? Did she have an oxygen machine? Was she clothed or unclothed? Does she have a CPAP? What were those factors when they first accosted her? Secondly, the first 45 minutes of an abduction is the most dangerous. There's usually
abduction or kidnapping.
A lot of violence. So what did Nancy Guthrie experience? It's similar to somebody who's in a mudslide or a tornado or a flood or something unanticipated. The first response is going to be shock, that the nervous system becomes activated, like the fight or flight syndrome. The second is going to be disbelief. This is not really happening to me. Similar to somebody who's in an accident, they tell themselves, this didn't really happen. It's a type of dissociation. After that, Nancy, they're likely dragging her to the front door. And remember, the skin on elderly people's arms and their legs and their torsos is extremely fragile. You grab somebody like that by the arm, their skin is going to tear. At that point, she's going to be experiencing more disorientation and confusion. DNA, of course, will be deposited all over the place, especially since the skin is fragile and will have torn. Now, when they get her to the front door, the blood trail stops. This has me extremely concerned because that means at that point they had to carry her and get her into some kind of a waiting vehicle. If she's conscious at that point, Nancy, the realization will be sinking in that something disastrous is happening to her, and she's going to be trying to make sense of it.
Guys, you are seeing the aerial video footage from our friends at Fox News. Joining me now, forensics expert, star of Zone 7, a hit podcast, and author of a brand new book on Amazon, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, Solving the Cold Case. Cheryl McCollum, thank you for being with us. Cheryl, it seems to me, especially when you heard Dave Mack describing how they were going in and out of that
Swans don't swim in a sewer. I kind of like that.
Pool gate, that they were looking for every single possible entrance, every egress into that property. Because when we see, and now it has been determined largely anyway, Cheryl McCollum, through no help of nanos, that the videos we were seeing, and you and I pored over them frame by frame, Cheryl, to determine, was that the same guy, the porch guy with the backpack, without the backpack?
Yeah, it took me a minute. I was kind of trying to register it, but I think it was actually kind of I think it's cool. I like it.
Notice how the rocks are positioned on the right.
I won't read it, but I will say that I like the title, but I will not read it.
Right side, and apparently a landscaper had moved them to where we see them on the left side. There is different plant configuration. The lighting is different, obviously, from two different occasions. How did he get in? How did he leave? Did he just waltz up the front walkway? I think they were looking at all those possibilities and more, Cheryl McCollum. You and I many times retraced a crime scene, and we would do it over and over and over. What do you think they were doing?
I'm actually reading a book right now called Abraham Lincoln, A Remarkable Life. And it's a really strange book because it's like chapter 1A, chapter 2B, chapter 1A, chapter 1B, chapter 1C, and then it goes to chapter 2A, 2B, 2C. I don't know why he did that.
As soon as I saw the group yesterday, it made me think of what you and I have done many, many times. You get the prosecutor out there with one of the lead detectives with your federal partners, and you walk it together. They have to understand that scene. They have to understand what's in that front door. When you turn around, how does the street look? They've got to go in the back to see that back door as it relates to the guest house and the swimming pool. They've got to go to the side to see that sliding glass door. This is imperative for two reasons. One, the prosecutor is the only person that can make a deal. They have got to understand that scene, so when they're talking to somebody, when the federal people are interviewing a potential suspect eventually, they have to know immediately whether that person is telling the truth or not. Well, when you walk that scene, you know where the blood starts and where it goes through that house out that front door. You know what her bed cover looked like. You know what the kitchen looked like. You know what color the sofa is. If you don't go to that house, you don't know that. I thought yesterday was a critical move.
Cheryl, I agree. Guys, I want to go back to our footage from our friends at Fox News, the aerial video, because I noticed as they're walking by the pool and then they get to the gate as they see them coming around the side, right there on the right. They're passing windows. They're going along a heavily shrubbed area where you be very hard pressed to see someone. Now keep watching. They walk up to this wrought iron gate. Keep watching. They open up the gate. Then the Fed with the blue tie turns around and he is taking pictures. He's not talking. He takes a picture right there. What is it they're looking at? And see, the other, either detective or prosecutor, turns back to look at what he was doing. Look at that. See, he's gesticulating there. Maybe how wide something is, I can't tell. Is that the way they took Nancy Guthrie out? Is that what they're looking at? You know, a lot has been made while we're on taking Nancy Guthrie out, Dave Mack, about these tunnels that were, forged originally out of water culverts, and they lead to Mexico. And could the perp have taken Nancy Guthrie down one of these tunnels? I find that fantastical because she can't walk over 50 yards. But yet that has taken over the internet. What can you tell me?
Well, Nancy, the tunnels that you talk about, the Thornydale tunnels, I
don't know if there is a patio. It's a good question.
Run close, the tunnels meaning near Nancy Guthrie's home, and they have resulted in the find of the backpack that had been abandoned. This is a tunnel that is an overwash area. One of them is actually called the Relito River Wash Area. Right now, these wash areas are dry, Nancy, and so there are homeless people that are spending their time inside these tunnels. Nancy Guthrie's home is located next to this Relito River Wash Area, and these tunnels do go for some distance. They vary in size and distance and quality, but you are talking about 60 miles from the Mexico border. You're not going to take a tunnel from north of Tucson all the way across the border, but these tunnels do offer.
You look at that lady and you just go, like, what kind of a sick bastard? Patio doors off bedroom. Okay.
A way of exiting out of the general vicinity and coming up someplace else where a car or a van could be ready to take her away. These areas are being searched by volunteers, Nancy. The volunteers that we're told not to search, they're the ones that are searching, doing anything they can to try to find Nancy Guthrie.
That's just a theory that has become popularized on the internet. I don't think there's any way that Nancy Guthrie was carried out through those tunnels, but now we've explained why that is not feasible. So let's turn our attention to something that is feasible. As we said, in the last 24 hours, the feds have been poring over the Nancy Guthrie home. I hope it's not in their effort to release the home. Let me go out to you. Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director Operations USPA Nationwide Security. He actually leads a team of investigators that go around the world finding missing people. Former Marine and Iraqi war vet. You can find him at USPANationwideSecurity.com. Brian, I want to talk to you about the feasibility once and for all of taking Nancy through these intricate tunnels did not happen, and how suggestions like that are half-baked are slowing down the investigation.
Well, to answer that question first, I agree that this is not feasible for the first and most obvious reason. We know that Nancy can't on her own walk more than 50 meters. So just the logistics of getting in and out of the tunnel would provide a major challenge. Now, the tunnels would provide concealment of movement, all right? In a panic situation, robbery gone wrong theory scenario, it might fit in. But I want to add one key thing here. This tunnel, the entrance to that tunnel is miles away from Nancy's home. So after the perpetrator removed her from the house, why would he stop in the vehicle to go into that tunnel? The logic doesn't add up.
Well, you're right, Fitzgibbons. To be exact, it's 8 miles away. Back to you, Cheryl McCollum, before I get to the rest of our panel. Cheryl is actually out on a scene right now. Cheryl, releasing the scene too quickly. Remember in Brian Kohberger, if I have to raise his specter up, the home was demolished on King Road. What if a potential jury needed to see the layout of the home. Completely impossible.
I remember watching that live when they demolished that house, and I wouldn't go as far to say that I was like sick to my stomach, but it definitely gave me a weird feeling. Like it just felt wrong. I felt uneasy about it, even from somebody who's just watching from a distance that, you know, had no real connection other than following the case. I was just like, if this thing goes to trial, this could, like, I feel like that this could be a problem. I just thought it could have been. It was not, it felt weird.
3D reconstructions, well, they're great, but it's not like the real thing. Think about Alex Murdaugh. There were plenty of 3D reconstructions done in that case. But in the end, the jury went back to the scene.
Yeah,
they went all the way back to see where Maggie and Paul were murdered. Remember? And it was crucial. It made a difference in the minds of a lot of jurors.
Nancy, at the police academy, we are taught you get
a lot of what? Jurors?
One shot. You don't get to go back 3 and 4 and 5 times like we've seen here. That's not a good look. There is no rush. There is no reason when you have an 84-year-old woman missing that you know has health problems, you know she doesn't wander off, she's got her faculties, and you've got blood at the front door. You seal that off until you have a good handle on what has absolutely occurred. There's no way that we would have released that scene, you and I, if we were working this back in the day, for at least a week.
Oh, no way. And remember, in the Parkland shooting, that school stayed closed for 7 years. Now, I'm not advocating a 7-year delay in the judicial process, but why? What's the hurry?
Yeah.
The family doesn't live there. Why would you hand it over now? Because at that point, you find evidence a week from now. No, it likely will not come in because you've lost your chain of custody. Don't screw this up. As Cheryl McCollum just said, you've got one chance. Don't blow it by releasing the scene too soon. Scott Eicher with me right now, and Susanna Reed, DNA expert. Don't move a hair. I'm getting to the DNA. Scott Eicher is a founding member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, Norfolk, Virginia, Homicide Division, 12 years, and he is now at Precision Cellular Analysis. Scott, thank you for being with us tonight. I want to talk to you about that elite video and audio crew that went in with the feds. And this was like in a movie. It was never anything like that when I was prosecuting. But a big trail of black SUVs, some of them with the windows blacked out, all caravan to the home, and they all trooped out. Okay. To reality.
If and when this thing goes to trial, a good defense attorney is going to have a field friggin' day with the releasing of the scene, the reopening of this crime scene, the releasing, the opening. I mean, they are going to have a field day and base their entire case off of it. Their entire, like, it's going to be, if you get a really good defense lawyer, and they're out there and they will take this case, it will be a major friggin' problem. A major problem.
What can the video team hope to find? What are they looking for? What are they documenting? They had audio there, image analysts. What was it all about?
Well, these are experts in looking at videos, pulling videos from different mediums and enhancing that data. Now, a personal visit to that location also helps them understand all right, what are they seeing in the video? That archway that the suspect is walking up to the house, how big is it?
Does that video, yeah, he did, JLR didn't order the pizza. Somebody else did that. But that photo, that image is so bothersome.
Are they measuring the different points of where, when he walked in, how can we determine how tall he is when he's up at the camera, like we're seeing on the screen now? So these are experts in that aspect of looking at the data, getting measurements from it, and helping the investigation through the video enhancement and taking these type of measurements.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Between the grocery store and insurance premiums, even with a steady job, more families are being forced to rely on high married and an ex, a family member, a neighbor, a girlfriend, a wife, an ex, to come forward and forget their misplaced feelings of loyalty.
Nancy, there is terrible chatter online that the Guthrie family was cheap and therefore they waited 4 or 5 weeks to offer a large reward. This is not true. There is a very specific psychology to offering rewards. If they had offered that reward in the beginning, the perpetrator might have panicked and killed Nancy Guthrie. What the family did at first was they had offered that reward, specific psychology to offering rewards. If they had offered that reward in the beginning, the perpetrator might have panicked and killed Nancy Guthrie. What the family did at first was they appealed to morality. Savannah Guthrie was saying things like, we believe in the goodness of human nature. Well, that did not work, Nancy. So now with this $1.2 million reward, that does break the bonds of loyalty because that is big money. That's lifetime money. So a sister, a girlfriend, somebody he once dated, and that person's no longer with him, a neighbor, they're going to start thinking seriously about the clues. Who disappeared in the middle of the night? Who drives a car like that? Do I have a friend who owns that kind of a jacket or a backpack? It's a little like when the Powerball or the lottery keeps.
I don't see how somebody would freak out and kill her because of a reward.
Climbing and climbing. Somebody who might not have bought a lottery ticket, they're going to stop into their local 7-Eleven and buy one, Nancy, because now they're not internally motivated. We go back to people around the perpetrator. The internal motivation didn't work. The appealing to morality. So now there's extrinsic motivation, which is profit and greed.
In the last 24 hours, feds, federal prosecutors, and an elite team of videographers, audio, you name it, crime scene, image analysts are back at the scene. Doing what? They went in, closed the doors. As Dave Mack advised you, one of the SUVs went into the garage and closed the garage door. We didn't know what they were doing in there, but we can surmise. Also tonight, we are learning that there is a viable DNA sample found in the home. It does not belong to Nancy Guthrie, and it does not belong to her inner circle, her family, her friends, the people that work in her home. However, Nanos, in his wisdom, blurts out, it's mixed. The fact that DNA is mixed is just that. It's a hurdle to jump over, and typically not much of a hurdle. This is 2026, and now DNA can be extricated, it can be isolated and analyzed, and there's nobody better to do that than Susanna Ryan. She is a laboratory director and forensic DNA analyst.
This is a great comment right here. It says, one ransom note may had insight. Well, that was the initial thought. That's why they said, well, maybe this, it could be a good guess, or I don't know. I don't think it was ever a ransom situation personally. I don't think it is, and I don't think it was. Yeah, I believe this is from today. Yeah. Yeah, 8 hours ago.
At Pure Gold Forensics, DNA consultant at Ryan Forensics, 25 years in the DNA business in both public and private DNA facilities. Susanna, thank you for being with us. I've tried a lot of cases without DNA. I've tried a lot of cases with DNA. I remember the first time I heard the word deoxyribonucleic acid, and I knew at that time, 6th grade, I would need to be able to say it off the tip of my tongue. And I recall actually practicing the word in the 6th grade. I never needed it until many, many years later when I was prosecuting my first DNA case. That said, mixed DNA, fine, bring it on. I want to hear from you. Technically, explain to us mere mortals, how you would get that DNA sample from inside Nancy Guthrie's.
I thought that he did say that it was mixed, but I can't remember specifically. She is crazy.
Home, and you would isolate the DNA and then analyze it. How do you do it?
Okay, well, to be clear, we have to be aware that I think there are two different types of mixtures that we're talking about. And I think that what most people are used to hearing about is the traditional DNA testing, what we call STR testing. That stands for short tandem repeats. And so that's what you usually hear about. That's what most crime labs
I can't remember
in this nation and across the world are using. That's the type of DNA that goes into the CODIS databases. And we do have a lot of tools to help us with mixtures with STR testing, that traditional testing, right? We have, over the years, we've learned manual methods to separate the DNA out. We have software programs now that are really advanced and can work with low
I think the thing is that he said a bunch of stuff.
level mixtures. We can even put some mixtures into the CODIS database. We're able to do that now and try to get a match that way. And certainly we can do direct comparisons to mixtures. But the other type of mixture that I think is kind of getting lost in translation here is the genealogical mixtures. And that is a totally different type of DNA testing. That is called SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms. And those are much more difficult to work with when we have mixtures. Those are single base pairs. So I was trying to think of a way to describe this. And, we have, when we have mixtures and we look at DNA data, we have a series of peaks. And with STR testing, there's some gaps. There's some room between those peaks. With SNP,
probably not. I mean, they're not. I doubt it.
Testing, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of individual base pairs. And so each one of those, there's a peak. So I was thinking, like, if you're thinking about the teeth on a comb, right? Like each one of those is a single base pair change. And then if you have another comb that is placed in there that has the same peaks at the same locations, it is incredibly difficult to interpret the mixtures. And I can kind of give you a real life example, if you'd like, about interpreting mixtures. Some of the cases that I've worked on, it's kind of two different cases where one was very successful, where we were able to use genealogy. It was a cold case from the 80s, and I used the MVAC. I was able to get a profile from the victim's, something he was wearing. He had been picked up and thrown over a bridge. Was able to get a profile. It was a mixture of two people. It went into CODIS without a match, and we were able to do genealogy on that. And the reason that one worked was because the victim was the minor contributor. The unknown person was contributing more than 75% of the DNA. So that genealogy lab, which it was Othram that did the testing, they were able to break that apart and say, okay, we know our person of interest is this major contributor. I have another case right now that Othram we've spoken with, and at this time, they can't work with it because the situation is reversed. Now, my victim is the 75% contributor, and the unknown person, the unknown male, is only 25%. And right now, they can't do anything with that. And so when Nanos says, we think in a week, a month, a year, we'll have something we can work with, he's talking about deconvoluting SNP mixtures, and we're just not there yet.
Susanna, I do not believe, and I have tried mixed DNA cases, specifically in.
Yes.
I've had up to 3 donors in the mixture. It is not going to take a year to separate this DNA, to separate Nancy Guthrie's DNA from the perp's DNA. Not going to happen. We already know the contributors in the home, the family, the friends, the workers. We know it's not them. So it's not going to take a year. And I don't know why Nanos blurted that out again. Now, if you get into genetic genealogy, just think about it. Joseph DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer, that didn't take a year. And they went all the way back practically to the Mayflower to figure that out, for Pete's sake. So blurting out, it'll take a year, is not helpful. What?
Correct. I understand, but that was single source. And a lot of the cases that you're hearing being solved are cases where there's a body fluid, there's blood, there's semen, it's single source. They can get that SNP profile and start building out the family trees. It's when you have a mixture and you're trying to do SNP testing, that's where the difficulty lies. And there are companies that are working on programs to tear those mixtures apart, to be able to work with SNP mixtures. And that is what the technology is that Nanos is talking about, that is developing.
In addition to DNA technology, and to me, Cheryl McCollum, it's a huge stride forward. That
probably because she has to deal with twins. And twins have to deal with her.
Have identified a DNA sample in the home that is not related to Nancy. It's not a friend. It's not a worker in the home. It is stranger DNA, and they have it, and it is being analyzed. At the get-go, it was, woe is me. We're not going to find anything. Well, they found something. Every time it seems that Nano says, well, we're down and out. There's no video. A miracle.
She's digging in on Nanos, man. She is digging him.
Happens, a thunderbolt strikes, and lo and behold, we do have video and we do have DNA. What is his problem?
I'll tell you, he should have never said it's going to take a year, because that lets the perpetrator know, hey, I've got plenty of time to still hide and get away and destroy evidence. What it says to me that it's a mixture, that is a money tree, Nancy, because that is proof on proof that this perpetrator, this assailant, became in contact with our victim prior to her disappearance. That's incredible. And when they separate it, and they will, and when they get him through ancestral means, and they will, that's going to be something he cannot explain or wiggle his way out of.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox Grace. Stream it first. Right out to Scott Eicher joining us, and to the rest of the panel. I'm not your 8th grade algebra teacher. Don't wait on me to call you. But yes, I do have a ruler in my hand, and
don't wait for me to call you. Call you. Funny.
I will use it. Eicher, as you know,
somebody should send me some food, man.
A founding member of the FBI cellular analysis team.
I accept pizza.
Norfolk, Virginia PD. Homicide, 12 years. Precision cellular analysis. Digital blackout. In a nutshell, what is it and how can we use it?
A digital blackout is referring to when the suspects turn off their electronic devices at the time of the crime so that they can't be tracked. Now, how good is that? I mean, did they turn off Bluetooth? Did they turn off their phone? Did they turn off Wi-Fi? That all depends on how smart they think they are. a lot of the things that we find is that they might turn it off during the actual crime, but not turning it off when they're casing the crime scene prior to the crime. So we can look at that type of data, see what phones were there before and were not there at the time of the crime.
Okay, here's my question. And for the rest of the panel, please jump in with questions for Iker. Scott Iker.
I'll pass.
How do you go about, okay, here's a perfect example. Brian Kohberger. He turns his cell phone off as he approaches the murder scene. The King Road address where he brutally murdered 4 beautiful young University of Idaho students. Then, as he's leaving at a certain point, and I drove it myself in the middle of the night, way circuitous route to get back to his apartment in Pullman, he turns his cell phone back. He turns his cell phone back on to call mommy. Mommy. That said, it's very clear that he did not want a cellular trail going to the scene. We also have that similar action. Allegedly, hasn't been proven yet. Barry Morphew has been accused in the murder of his wife. Prosecutors allege he did much the same in the critical hours. He did not want to back on to call mommy. Mommy.
Dude, that was terrifying. Mommy. Mommy.
That said,
you think that Kohberger really said that? Mommy. I bet he didn't say it that way, but
very clear that he did not want a cellular trail going to the scene. We also have that similar action. Allegedly, hasn't been proven yet. Barry Morphew has been accused in the murder of his wife. Prosecutors allege he did much the same in the critical hours surrounding Suzanne Morphew's disappearance. That's the digital blackout. The bookends. When the cell phone was on and cut off, and when the cell phone was turned back on. Leading up to this, how can you guys, the feds, you've got all of this cell phone data.
He probably said, "Hello, mother. I'm coming home soon. Please get new pots and pans. As for, there have been animal carcasses cooked in there, and I am a vegan."
Data at your fingertips, and it's a huge amount. Probably.
Calling your mom mother is weird too, I think. Like you're just going, mother. Mother. It's not Little House on the Prairie.
Millions of data points.
All right, you two stop talking about Vegemite. It's just not good.
Can you identify a car? Because you've got the possibility of a cell phone being in the car. You've got
it's exactly like Norman Bates.
The possibility.
Hello, mother.
The kidnapper had it on at the time. You've got the possibility of a smartwatch being connected to either cellular or Bluetooth. You have a lot of possibilities of catching the wave, catching the Wi-Fi. But how can you tell? How do you identify the vehicle coming to a certain juncture, cutting it all off, committing the kidnapping, and then coming back and cutting it all back on? How do you ISO that?
What you're trying to do is determine patterns of life of each one of these devices. What's normal and what's not normal. So we'll look at phones that are neighbors to Mr. Guthrie. They're normally at that house during the day or at night, depending on their lifestyle and their, if they have work and stuff. And then we have to look at, what's abnormal. This phone comes in a week before, and then again 2 days before, and then on the night of the crime comes to the general area, and then the phone turns off. That's a clue, right? We start looking at that device a little bit more, try to determine who it belongs to, get the full records for that phone, and see what else we can pull from those records and maybe identify the suspect.
Dr. Bethany, I've tried a lot of kidnapping cases, but
You guys ever tried peanut butter?
not in the traditional sense of the word, such as this case. Kidnappings I have done are when a woman is and kidnapped, taken away, okay, or
I like when Norman cross dresses.
a person taken to a different location for a different reason, and it's relatively short. Most people think of kidnapping as a ransom for money. Question to you: the thinking of a person like this, the mindset of a person who would kidnap an elderly woman for ransom.
Nancy,
What
this
are
is
your
a-
thoughts?
Nancy, she's a commodity. She is somebody who's being taken for some commercial value. So kidnappers who kidnap geriatrics, that means older people, they're kind of like business people. It's kind of like somebody who opens a store and then they buy jewelry because they're going to mark up the jewelry and sell it to the public, okay, or to clients. She's a commodity to them. They're not attached to her like a grandma or a sister or a brother or something. She is an object to be exchanged for money. So these people, Nancy, they're ruthless. And sadly, her life likely means nothing to them. And if they think they're not going to.
Really quick about the Abe Lincoln, the book that I'm reading, when he was running for a legislator in Illinois, one of his opponents said that he had dirt on him that would end his run in politics, but that he said that he was too good of a friend to him to do it. And Abe Lincoln said that if you have that kind of information on me and you don't disclose it, if it's really that threatening, you would owe it to the public to disclose it, because you're not thinking in the best interest of the people. Although he said maybe what you think you heard, you believe, but that you would owe a duty to the people to disclose that. And he won based on that response, pretty much. Thought it was pretty interesting.
Get money or a reward, her value ceases.
Joining us, Brian Fitzgibbons, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators around the world specifically to find missing people, including Mexico. You can find him at USPA Nationwide Security, and he is a former Marine and Iraqi war vet. I think that says it all. Fitzgibbons, I want to hear your thoughts on what is happening now, and specifically about the reward.
Yeah, this is a major increase in the reward amount. And what this indicates, Nancy, is that this message is...
I'm not even kidding you. Like, I didn't even say it correctly, but the way that he said it, it was so eloquent and it was so thoughtful, and it was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable response. Obviously, the guy had nothing.
Going out to individuals on the periphery associated with the perpetrators of this crime. So while we initially saw talks back and forth, videos about the ransom demand itself, this increase in reward is specifically targeted to associates of who potentially committed this.
Abraham Lincoln is probably one of my favorite humans ever.
Crime to incentivize them to come forward and give up a name.
How often do you see rewards work?
And thank you, Holly, for running.
This is certainly a mixed bag. We've had some success increasing reward amounts to generate tips and leads. Generally what's going to happen is you're going to get a big influx of tips after a major increase to a reward is announced. Now, that's something that the FBI is clearly capable of processing and filtering and triaging all those tips. So we've had every case is dependent on its own scenario, but we have had success in increasing rewards. Now, that being said, on the whole, this is not a great chance of success with an increased reward, but it is a tool in the toolkit.
You know, I hear what you're saying, Ms. Gibbons, but we hear about rewards being handed out quite often, not in kidnap for ransom.
You know where he actually got the name Honest Abe was when he worked at a little mercantile, and a lady came in and bought some tea, and he put the wrong weight on the scale on accident. Like they would use like little, I don't know, little metal pieces. You know, she's like, "Oh, this is how much I want," and then he ended up walking. He shorted her a few cents, or no, he shorted her some tea, and took in too much money for the mercantile, and he actually walked that back to her, and it was a pretty insignificant amount of money. But he said that he would do things
Because that's very rare. But in other cases, straight out to you, Cheryl McCollum joining us, founder of the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, forensics expert, and star of a hit podcast, Zone 7.
There's only like 15 too.
Author of a brand new book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, Solving the Cold Case of the Flint River Killer's Daughter. Cheryl McCollum, you have analyzed very carefully the ransoms and the reward. What do you think?
Nancy, it's a short list of the people in your life that would not turn you in for $1 million. This person knows it. People he went to high school with, neighbors, co-workers, people that sit next to him at church. They will turn you in for $1 million. And that phone has been ringing. And what we saw yesterday with the group surveying the grounds of that crime scene tells me this thing is red hot.
Dave Mack joining us from Crime Stories. Dave, what can you tell me about a neighbor unwittingly seeing the kidnapper?
Nancy, it's one of those shocking things that only means something after the fact. We have a neighbor of Nancy Guthrie who has lived in this area for over 30 years. 30 years in this neighborhood, and she sees a man, a stranger, never saw him before and hasn't seen him since. He was walking through the neighborhood.
Why does it always sound like this guy is broadcasting from the Hubble telescope?
But Aldine Meister says he was walking without typical walking gear, and said he had his hat pulled really far over his eyes. He was kind of younger, and he just didn't look like he was going out for a walk.
Nancy, visual out here is not good. I got to tell you that there's something weird going on in the cosmos.
He always sounds so weird.
Walk. He just didn't fit. Now, if you look through this neighborhood, Nancy, this is not a neighborhood that you would walk around. It's not a trick-or-treating neighborhood. There's a good distance between the homes. It's fairly older and affluent, so you don't see a young man normally walking around in this neighborhood. She didn't mention it to any.
We got a lot of intergalactic interference over this way.
Anybody other than her husband at the time. And she says it was after January 8th, but within 2 weeks of Nancy Guthrie's abduction. She doesn't know the exact day yet, but she did tell police as soon as Nancy Guthrie's abduction became public knowledge about the man.
He's on this show all the time. And every time they cut to him, you know, they go from some very clear, like, thank you, Nancy, this is awesome. And then they're like going out to whatever the frig that guy's name is. And he's like,
Nancy, it's a friggin' mess out here. God dang it. I don't know. I can't see anything. It's you have no idea what we're dealing with out here. but I'll tell you that I think what's gonna.
She saw walking. She gave a full description and has been interviewed. Investigators have yet to find any kind of surveillance video of this individual, but it might have something to do with the reason investigators have been talking about January 11th. And if anybody has security video, January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight.
American homeowners, the FBI has been warning call FBI, or if you wish to remain anonymous, 520-882-7463. 520.
All right, I want to hear just a little bit of this. I can't do another hour of this.
Everyone, I'm Ashley Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. Welcome. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for being here. Also, hit subscribe, please. It's a real favor to me, and I sure appreciate it if you already have. Also, appreciate our members. Thank you. It is.
They need to get the the guy back on there.
It's Thursday, February.
Ashley needs the guy from the Hubble spaceship.
26, which means it's 26 days since Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home against her will in Tucson, Arizona. And today, some interesting developments. More video has emerged. This courtesy of Fox News. Michael Ruiz from Fox Digital dropped a bombshell. Not going to lie. He went far and wide, maybe farther and wider than the sheriff's department did, outside of the 2-mile radius.
Far and wide. Even farther and wider than the guy that's on Nancy Grace's show nightly and can't get a microphone to save his life.
From Nancy Guthrie's home, because sheriffs asked everybody within a 2-mile radius if they could please check their ring cams, right? Sent out an alert to all of these residents. Please check your doorbell cams, your ring cams, your Nest cams, whatever cams you got for any video that you might have recorded. And it's a big window from Jan 1.
To be fair, it is winter time.
To Feb 1. But outside that 2-mile radius, they didn't ask those same questions. So super fascinating. Michael Ruiz went outside and his team went outside the 2-mile radius. And wouldn't you know it, they found somebody with video of vehicles that night, early into that morning, right? The morning of February 1st, when Nancy Guthrie was abducted. And not only did they find, a dozen vehicles driving at night, they found one that was particularly interesting. Let me give you all the details, because I, for one, am astounded that.
Well, it depends who you ask. The question is, was anything actually stolen from the house? It depends who you ask. Some people say no, but everybody should say that they don't know, because we don't know. The only thing that's confirmed that was taken was Nancy.
It was Fox that told the sheriff about these videos.
Hey, what's happening?
Not the other way around. It wasn't the sheriff that found these videos because they canvassed, because it's outside of the 2-mile perimeter. So this couple named Elias and Danielle Stratajulius, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, Stratajulius. I'm sorry, Elias and Danielle, if I'm wrong. But they told Fox News that they've got these street-facing ring cameras, right, that caught 12 different cars that were passing by their house on the morning of the abduction. Why does that matter? Well,
they are interesting cacti.
Specifically, it matters because this house is on back roads. And the back roads lead directly out of Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. And more interestingly, these back roads avoid major intersections.
Possible.
So if you're really smart and you're trying to avoid detection and you don't want cameras or license plate readers to see you driving at that time of night.
Well, yeah, maybe, but what if it was after? Macho.
night, you might
we're talking about the old dusty trail.
Consider taking back roads. I've watched Brian Enton drive those roads during the day. It is really hard to find your way during the day. You either have to really know that neighborhood well, that giant neighborhood, right? Because we're outside the 2 mile zone. Or you may have had to use a little help from, say, a digital directional app like Waze or Google Maps, right? So I'm also fascinated to find out at some point if the FBI has been doing that, finding everybody using those maps in that neighborhood at that time. Because if they were using back roads, it's even harder to get around. So this is interesting about the Stratagulias, their report to Fox News. They said that the police have not canvassed their neighborhood in the last 25 days. So Fox, to their credit, let the FBI and the sheriff know. They alerted them to this video. It is unclear if the video is significant. It is unclear if the vehicles that are on this video are significant to this crime, to this abduction.
It needs to be good night for El Macho. For those of you that didn't see it yesterday, this is I got this picture sent to me anonymously. The double life that my dog's been living with all the cartel stuff that's going on. We got El Macho, leader of the Milk Bone Underground. Ridiculous. Go to bed.
But what is really interesting is one of the vehicles in all of the 12 that we're showing you, one of the vehicles was caught on camera at 2:36 a.m. on Sunday, February 1st. That time is so important because 2:36 a.m. is roughly 8 minutes after the sheriff told us on the timeline that Nancy's pacemaker separated from her iPhone, right?
I can't pick them up right now. I'm having like a major problem with my wrist and my thumb. My thumb keeps catching. I don't know, like it's really odd. It's very sore, like right here, and it's been catching like constantly. And when I go to pick something up like this, it hurts a lot. I don't know why.
And it's presumed that that's when she was taken far enough away for the Bluetooth to separate from the iPhone, taken out of the residence.
No, I didn't.
So 8 minutes. Now what's even more significant?
And I have like a really high pain threshold, like very high. And it's very, very painful.
Is that this house is 2.5 miles away, and it's roughly a 7-minute drive. These cars matter. Like with that kind of a timeline, again, if you're following me, Nancy's pacemaker separates. 8 minutes later, this vehicle.
I had it happen with my left hand a few years ago, and my left hand's fine now, but this just started like a week or two ago, and I hope it clears up soon because it sucks.
Is seen on this camera, and it is only roughly a 7-minute drive. So however long it might have taken to get Nancy into a vehicle, get her secured, do whatever they had to do, figure out where they were, make that drive, I could see that being perhaps 8 minutes, right? Sounds like it's perfectly within reason to assume that could be that vehicle. Could also be someone coming home late at night, just coincidentally, it's at 2:36 a.m., but I'd love to know how many cars were out driving at that time of night. How many Teslas were out driving at that time of night whose cameras may have captured? I mean, there's Tesla cameras all around a Tesla. I know because I have one. And
oh, nice. Caused by inflammation. Yeah, it sucks.
You can capture vehicle traffic at that time of night. 2:36 a.m. is not a busy time of night. Yeah, I get it. It's Tucson. There'll be people out driving, but not as many as, say, before 11 at night. Maybe they've got these things. We don't know. The FBI has kept such a tight lid on their investigation, unlike the sheriff, who's sort of given us a lot of different mixed messages, and also taken back some of his messaging. Ms. Strategulius said that number of cars passing, 12 vehicles passing, I think it's between midnight-ish and 6 a.m., right? On her doorbell cam, not unusual. Not unusual to see rough.
I have a brace. Not that anybody cares about this, but I have a brace, and I don't know why, but I feel self-conscious wearing it in public because I have no idea why. It's a terrible thing to say, Cheryl. Just kidding.
A dozen cameras passing. What is unusual to Ms.
It's like, let me see if I can. I'll try to show you here. It's right. Get turning it. It's just right at like where the little bump is. Right there is. It's really. It hurts there, like right where the bump is. It's a pain in the ass.
Julia's and to a friend of hers is that no one from law enforcement had visited the neighborhood. But again, let's be really clear. A 2-mile radius is a lot of homes. Maybe not as many as most of us would assume, because these are big properties, 1 to 4 acres. So maybe not that many homes, but maybe at some point the sheriff and the FBI were planning to expand the radius and ask more people. But I mean, time's a ticking. You know, you don't have forever to capture ring cams. We learned that in the Idaho investigation, that some of these businesses, you know, that had been canvassed for their videos to find the white Elantra, it was already gone. Their video is already gone. So time is of the essence if you're going to grab video. That's why I don't know why they decided on a 2-mile radius. Maybe from the get-go, just capture the data and go through it in order. Start in the center of the concentric circle and move out. And maybe eventually you won't have to get to the houses that are outside the 2-mile radius. But now you might be SOL. I mean, luckily Fox was able to get this, but you might be SOL. You know what? Out of luck. I'm not supposed to swear. My husband hates it. I know some of you don't mind. Shit out of luck. Okay. And pardon me if that upsets you. So
yeah, we're all.
But you might be out of luck if you're now trying to go and canvass all those houses in around Danielle and Elisa's neighborhood. But super great reporting from Fox on this street-facing ring cam. So interestingly, Fox actually did a further investigation, and what they did was they asked a retired NYPD detective and a national security expert named Pat Brosnan to review the video with them. I tried to do it, and I saw a lot of the comments saying, hey, can you slow it down? It's hard to do it on your iPhone. You have to do it on a computer. Even then, the images aren't always super perfect where you can slow it down. But Pat Brosnan, the expert that Fox conferred with, he seemed to feel that he could assess this 2:36 a.m. vehicle captured on the camera as a Kia Soul. SOUL, a Kia Soul, based on slanted roof, the design of the windows, and the rear quarter glass.
Come on, I mean, there's really no way to know that, though. I mean, that's just a guess, right?
He also noted that there are vertical brake lights. Now, that is not an official assessment. That's not like we heard from the Idaho, the Moscow police said we're on the lookout for a white Elantra, period. White Elantra, right? Gave us a range and dates, but white Elantra. This is a retired NYPD detective and a national security expert. So for what it's worth, let's keep our ears open.
When I go walking or running, I've been having to go like this and just like hold right here to just to like steady it so it's not like bouncing around. It's like, take my good hand.
And our eyes open in case we hear in the coming days that law enforcement sources are asking, or law enforcement authorities are telling us to keep our eyes open for video of a specific vehicle. Till now, on day 26, we still have no vehicle to look out for. All these eyeballs on this story, all these potential, crime solvers have not been alerted to any vehicles to look out for. This is pretty interesting. It also makes me think, well, what do they have inside the 2 mile zone? If this is outside the 2 mile zone, what do you got inside the 2 mile zone? If you've been able to do what this expert, Pat Brosnan, was able to do, why haven't you told us to look out for this?
When I do this,
I'm fascinated again because the FBI is involved as well. This is not just this is not just a Pima County investigation anymore. So I know people have been piling on, and I've been part of that onto some of the missteps of the sheriff's department. But the FBI is involved too. So I'm just really interested. Did you not have any luck in finding any video on that morning? This isn't a January 11th video, right? This is that morning, that time, within 8 minutes and a 7-minute drive away. So super, super interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask Maureen O'Connell about this in just a moment. She's just, chef's kiss.
Yeah, I read that it could take months.
Yes, on her knowledge base, former FBI special agent and, security expert in her own right. So I'm going to talk to her about that in a second. But I also want to tell you a bit of other news that I've learned from my law enforcement source. And I think this is really fascinating stuff. We've kind of lost sight of the Range Rover, the silver Range Rover, right? That was towed and license plate covered and taken into evidence and assuming processed by law enforcement sources after that February 13th, Friday night raid. Do you remember just the massive law enforcement response to the neighborhood that was only about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home? And a woman and another young man and then another man at a different location at a Culver's restaurant, all detained while that house was searched. Okay, found out some information about it from my source. Here is what I've learned. The Range Rover, as of several days ago, still part of the investigation, right? Also, what I learned was that the Range Rover, because we all wondered, the Range Rover looked dirty and dusty. It looked like it had been in the Culver's parking lot for a while, but the guy was sitting in a law enforcement vehicle in cuffs being questioned. Did he?
Gray Hughes was obsessed with the Delphi case and even built a 3D bridge and had no friggin' idea about any, like he was just like lost as a moronic.
Connect to it. Yes. The answer is, according to my source, yes, he was connected. He was the one driving that Range Rover. Did he own it?
No.
That is unclear. And even that was being sort of bandied about through law enforcement. And what my source says, connected to that vehicle, possibly using that vehicle for illegal activities. That's what my law enforcement said. They were trying to assess the ownership of it, not necessarily that he owned it, but he had been driving it that night. In fact, a law enforcement plane had been following him for quite some time prior to the raid. That is super interesting. So he was under that kind of surveillance from above, from a plane. Why the Culvers? So my source told me that the woman in the home is definitely his mom. Couldn't tell me about the other man being his brother, but there was some reporting that was unconfirmed that the other person was his brother. But the woman who was taken from the home and, according to the New York Times, taken to a neighbor's, and the neighbor was asking you just help her to stay here, keep her comfortable while we search the hell out of her house with a warrant. So he had been at the house. The man who was detained at the Culvers had been at his home with his mother and went out to get food, went out to pick up food. And that, according to my source, was the time that they decided this was a good time to hook him up, put the cuffs on, detain, ask questions. So they followed him to the Culvers as he was thinking he was going to go grab some food and come home. And that's when they all simultaneously, went into action. Grabbed his mom, pulled her out, and the young man, and then grabbed him with a separate set of units at the Culvers. So I'm told by my source that they seized their phones and that they still had them. As several days ago, they still had those phones because it could take weeks to process whatever material they wanted to get out of those phones. And you understand, grabbing phones isn't just an automatic thing. There's a process, there's a privacy issue, there's warranting, there's all sorts of stuff that you have to do. And it could actually take some time if there are, say, encrypted apps on phones. So they're going to take apparently several weeks from February 13th. And here we are, February 26th. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. Exactly that raid happened and that those detainees were held, questioned, and released with no charges. Okay, why him? This is interesting. So in order to get the warrant, my law enforcement source tells me, in order to get the warrant to come after this guy and the home he was in with his mom and whoever else it was, they used cell phone data, his criminal history, including illegal trafficking. They used the fact that he had a similar description as the suspect on the doorbell cam. And here's the big one. They had a specific tip from a person. They had a specific tip from a person. So they used all of that to go to a judge or a magistrate, whoever it was that signed off on the warrant and got that warrant. And again, since they had been trailing him with the plane from above, my assumption is that that warrant was kind of in place and ready to go for a little while, because they decided exactly on the time and that they'd wait, as he went out to get food, that they'd grab him separately and go through the house at a separate time. So lots of really, really interesting information. And then this last piece that I found so fascinating, I have not been able to put my finger on why the law enforcement source or the law enforcement members who were on scene at the Culvers and searching, photographing the silver SUV, the silver Range Rover. And then suddenly they put up those privacy shields and we all lost our ever-loving minds because we thought, oh my God, that's usually a body.
Yeah. Look, there are people that don't like JLR and to hate on him because he goes out there and, he can be, he calls himself a gonzo journalist and he's had issues in the past. I don't know. People make mistakes. And sometimes people change, I don't know. He has as much right to do it as anybody else.
You're putting up privacy shields like that. It usually means you're about to take a body out of the back of a vehicle. So up went the back, hatch of the Range Rover. Up went the privacy shields. Cameras were everywhere. I've learned why. It was not because they suspected a body was inside. It was not.
Yeah, he's not a mean dude. I think he's fine. I don't know. I don't have a problem with him.
It was because we were all there with cameras. They were well aware, the agents on the ground and the sheriff's deputies on the.
Jealousy is an evil, evil disease. It's so unbecoming of people.
The ground. We're well aware of the number of cameras that could have a direct line of sight into the back of this vehicle. And so that is the only reason. They just.
Gray could take his old ass out there and do it. Maybe he'll have some success at it. Maybe he won't, but.
Wanted to get a better look at the evidence inside the back of the vehicle and not give us that same right, right? So those shields went up just so that they could get eyes on without the window, without the dirty window in between them. But it was not because they had seen anything through those windows that they suspected at the time was a body. It was just solely that, just to keep us prying eyes. And it worked because all we saw was privacy shields, right? But my God, did it ever lead to crazy speculation that, my God, there might be a body in there, right? And it all dispelled the next day when the sheriff's department said nobody arrested, the detainees released, and that yes, a raid had been executed that night. So lots of really interesting information on that. And as of about a week ago, Brian Enton had said that.
My favorite though was when he went to the hurricane. That was the best.
There was some meat on the bones of that investigation. Super fascinating. Meat on the bones meant that they would still be looking at that. We have not had an update from the sheriff or from the FBI as to the significance of that raid or that part of the investigation, but now that I know that it takes, several weeks, or that they had planned to take several weeks to extract information from the phones that they had seized in that raid, makes sense. They still have a lot of work to do, and they've got that evidence, so you don't release it till you've exhausted all of that work. All right, so I told you about Maureen O'Connell, and let me tell you, I turned to her, and I have for years, by the way. You may just be seeing her if you're new to the true crime world because of all the work that she's been doing lately on this particular story and her analysis. But I've been interviewing and watching Maureen O'Connell for a very long time because she's smart. She is a former FBI special agent and host of the podcast Best Case, Worst Case, and all around really smart lady. And I'm going to talk to her in one. You can just click the link below. Now, here's my conversation with Maureen O'Connell. What do you make of this new series of images? All these vehicles, a dozen vehicles passing by someone's ring cam a half mile outside of the perimeter that they had canvassed for people's videos.
I'm so happy I could jump up and down. It's always going to come back to a vehicle. So many crimes start with a vehicle, end with a vehicle, and the arrests are a result of a vehicle. So I am very, very happy. If we were able to tell what type.
Yeah, Maureen was on the interview room.
Type of car it is, we can start looking in other places for it. Just the color and the shape, and even if you can narrow it down to 2 or 3 different vehicles, it's gonna be great. Hopefully, this is the break we've all been praying for.
Well, let me bring this up again. A retired NYPD detective and national security expert named Pat Brosnan told Fox that his review of their video suggests it's a Kia Soul based on the slanted roof, the window design, the rear quarter glass, and the vertical brake lights.
These cops know their cars because they're always looking for cars. We're always looking at surveillance tape, and we're always trying to figure out who people are and what shady behavior they're up to. So if he says that's what it is, he's probably real close. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a very square body, isn't it, on that Kia Soul?
I like it.
Yeah.
So I don't know my cars, but it looked like it on the video.
Yeah. All right. I can't wait to see that. That's excellent news.
It is. And I'm so interested to hear that the time is 2:36 a.m., which is just 8 minutes after Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker was separated. And it's roughly only a 7-minute drive between these two homes. That's got to mean something.
It definitely means something. Whenever you get information on a case, Ashley, throwing it up on the timeline is always really important, and it can tell you a lot of things. And that is so close to the time that this potentially happened, and when her pacemaker separated from her phone. Yeah. So her phone was left in her bedroom, and it sounds like they got her out the front door. And when she probably got onto the front porch, her pacemaker lost connection with the phone. And that's probably where this vehicle pulled up, and they put her in the vehicle.
And drove off. And so I keep thinking about this neighborhood. It's very, very dark, very hard to navigate, but somebody might have decided that this is a back road that leads out of Mrs. Guthrie's neighborhood and avoids the major intersections. You'd either have to know your way around in the dark of night, or you'd be using some kind of a navigation app. I can only imagine the FBI has been able to at least tap some kind of intelligence on the use of navigation apps in that exact neighborhood at that exact time.
Yeah, or you could roll old school and just and do a couple of dry runs. Do dry runs in the day and a couple dry runs at night, which are a lot harder. And when they're coming down that street, they probably had their headlights off. It had to be just pitch black, or just their parking lights, because you don't want to draw attention. And you never know when someone's going to just be walking their dog in the middle of the night. So you just got to be very careful. My guess is they pulled.
I don't know how you'd see, though, without headlights. It is pitch black because of the University of Arizona's contract to keep the lights down for the astronomy programs.
Right. Well, you have a cabin. Our family has one, and it's pitch dark. And sometimes I just turn the lights off to see how dark it is. And could I drive around here at night? And no, only if you know it really, really well. But I'm just saying that when they pulled up to the house, they likely turned the lights off completely, pulled into the driveway, not the circle driveway. I would say the driveway to the side, but you'd have to have your lights off there just in case she was already up in the middle of the night,
Yeah,
some people
absolutely.
can't sleep.
So the other thing I was wondering is if they were able to capture these images from a ring cam that was pointed towards the street 2.5 miles away, they must have something similar within the 2 mile radius. No?
Yes. I mean, you know, those houses are set so far back. You can have cameras all around your house. You're not going to be able to see to the street. You may see that there is a light going by, but you're not going to see much else because there's no ambient light out there. There's no street lights. So that I think is I think they've beaten that that point to death. I am disappointed that when they didn't get any information from their original perimeter, that they didn't extend the perimeter. I'm very disappointed in that.
That's my next question is I thought about a 2 mile radius. That's a lot of property. That's a lot of, that's a big area. But these properties are all big. They're not stacked against each other. You're not talking about tens of thousands of homeowners. You're talking about a few hundred. Why would they have even chosen 2 miles? Why not just start really big and then pick your investigations, in the middle of the concentric circle? Because those videos could be overwritten by now.
Yeah, but I mean, they were asking for them right at the very beginning. And the bottom line is, when you consider things like most traffic collisions or most accidents happen within a 1 or 2 mile radius of your house, because that's where you are most of the time. We know for a fact they were at Nancy's house. We know for a fact they left Nancy's house. So I think a 2 mile perimeter is a really good starting point. But when that didn't, when nothing came of that, it's time to open your perimeter, open your aperture a little bit more, and let's see what we can come up with, even if it's another 1/4 mile all the way around or something.
Yeah.
Or just the areas near the back road, wherever there's an egress.
We everybody's different in their settings, but a lot of these things overwrite. Like you can't sort of say, well, let's say in a month we don't get anywhere. Let's go ask people for video a month from now. Well, you're not going to get it. The time to ask is right away. Remember in Moscow, they were asking businesses for video a little too late, and they said, sorry, it's overwritten already. You got to ask for it right away. Well, I cast a really wide net and then just start gumshoeing through it.
Well, what I didn't mean to wait a month. I meant, within those first couple days when you didn't get anything that was fruitful, open it up a little. Start asking for mutual aid and get people to go to those areas, at least along the roads that lead out of there, because my understanding is there aren't that many. And if this is the one that avoids the major intersections, that's definitely one to look at. You would think.
And we don't know if the sheriff or the FBI is going to release this to the public saying, hey, everybody, let's start looking for a vehicle we think might be a Kia Soul, like the Moscow police said with the white Elantra. We just don't know if there's evidentiary value here. All we know is what Fox was able to find from these neighbors, and the fact that the neighbors were surprised they weren't canvassed. I guess we'll watch this space for that. Let's move on to the other topic, and that is the silver Range Rover that we all seem to have forgotten about is still,
I didn't forget about it.
Yeah, right. It's still in play. And I've learned from, my law enforcement source that the guy they were targeting was at his mom's house and then, left to go pick up food. And that's when they decided to move in 2 different locations and grab the mom, pull her out of the home and search the home. And
whenever somebody goes missing, they always ask for like trail cams. Every time. Check your trail cams. I mean, and they're asking for like quite some time, or quite a ways away. They want everybody to check their cameras. So I don't understand why they would wait so long for that, I guess. I don't know.
Grab him in the Culver's parking lot, and it turns out he was driving the silver Range Rover, and they had a law enforcement plane overhead. Any of that a surprise to you?
No, because it probably had something to do with cell phones, because anyone that was in that area.
I think about what?
They were part of that geofence region, and so they were probably looking at this guy, and it was I don't know if they had they must have had the tag if they had the bird up.
Yeah, my
And then
source
they-
said that the plane had.
I like Maureen. I'm a big fan of Maureen. I like listening to her. She's very clever, smart, very smart.
been following him for a while, end quote.
Yeah.
Like, quote
Okay.
unquote,
So
for
then
a while.
So they had the tag.
I don't know if that's what you were talking about or not.
They knew when that truck was purchased. Or leased. My understanding is a truck just like that on the surround of the license plate. It had the name of the dealership, and they had that pretty much that truck on their website as being sold just a couple of days before the before Nancy's attack or
Yeah.
abduction.
So we weren't able to find out if he.
Could it be a Range Rover though? Could it be a Range Rover? Could it be that Range Rover? Ugh.
Owned that. My source only said that he was connected to that vehicle, could have been using it for criminal activity, and was driving it at that time. So that was the connection. He was connected to that silver.
I mean, the only reason that I say that she could be alive is because she hasn't been found. But it's like almost a month now. She wasn't in the best of shape anyway. Yeah.
Range Rover. But the other interesting thing is that they used criminal history of illegal trafficking, the fact that he physically had a similar description as the person on the Ring cam or on the doorbell cam at Nancy's house. They used cell data, you were right, and that they had a specific tip from a person. That's a lot of stuff. And it sounds to me like that's an easy warrant.
That's probable cause. Yeah, right there. You've got probable cause. So that's good. And people were saying, oh, they got him and then they let him go. Yeah, probable cause will get you the warrant, but it's not going to always get you the arrest. You just have to relax and understand that.
So the other issue my source told me was that they got the phones in that raid, and as of just a few days ago, they still had them, but that it could take, quote, weeks in order to extract the information that they might be looking for.
Well, it's not going to take. It probably wouldn't take that long to get a lot of stuff off the phone, but for encrypted apps where you're going to find all anything you really want to see.
Good morning.
That's going to take a lot longer. And I'm, obviously they're not cooperating, or it all would have been.
People crushing on Maureen in the chat. Dubs in the chat for Maureen. Dubs in the chat.
Extracted already.
A lot of people have been talking about these two raids that we've watched, and that those who were hooked up in those raids and detained and then released, and if they're innocent, they could it's actionable, that they could sue the department. It's really, really hard to sue the government. It's really hard to sue the police. But I am sort of curious about the mother of this guy, because now my source says this is his mother in the house. She's pulled out of her house. She's taken, according to the New York Times, to the neighbor, where the FBI agents say, could you just look after her for a while we raid her house? Does she have a case, given that she's not the person, she's not the target?
No,
the
but she
son
lives
was the
in the
target,
house.
Yeah.
If they have a warrant for the house, they've got a warrant for the house. It happens all the time. We would have a warrant for like a drug warrant, and it's for let's say one guy named John, and he lives there with 3 or 4 other people. We're looking for narcotics. We're looking for narcotics that we can tie directly to John, and we ask.
We got to get Maureen on the lab.
Questions of those people that live there when we find stuff. Who does this belong to? Who has dominion and control over this particular room? Or is this his room? Where is his room? All that kind of stuff. And we're able to search the whole house, but we want to be able to tie whatever evidence we find to the offender that we're looking at.
Even if he doesn't live there.
So he doesn't live, the son doesn't live there?
I'm not sure. I'm just curious. If he doesn't live there, they still have that same.
I would imagine she's a married lady.
Full right to raid the house if he spends time there.
he must be spending the night there, and so he stays there. And they had to bed him down in that location. There had to be a number of different data points to tie him to that location, and they oftentimes they'll have to what we call bed him down there, meaning we take him there, we follow him there, and we watch his car, and it stays there until, let's say, 11:30 or 12 at night. And then you either sit on it all night or you come back the next morning at 5 and the car is still there. You've now bedded that guy down in that location.
It's interesting. What do you make of the whole use
Yeah, wooing married women is not
of privacy shields, given that my source said it wasn't about a body. They didn't see a body through the windows. They just wanted to open the hatch, get a good look at what was in the back of the silver Range Rover, and just knew that there were just a lot of prying eyes with camera lenses nearby. And they put those privacy shields up for that reason.
I think it's smart.
I think a skunk just sprayed outside of the house.
I would do it. I would absolutely do it. We would put those pop-up tents up if we thought we had human remains. And even though it wasn't remains there, I don't know what was back there.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know what was back there because those windows appeared to be tinted pretty dark. So maybe they weren't sure what they were going to find. And then when you reach in and you lift up a blanket.
But my source did say they didn't suspect it was a body, and that they put the shields up not because they thought there was a body, just because they wanted to look at the evidence without all the reporters seeing it.
That makes sense. I would absolutely do that myself. Yeah. Because nothing is the press has been omnipresent with their drones up all around the house since the very beginning, and it's just this insatiable desire.
Yeah, I could probably get her on. Just would have to ask.
For evidence, but we have to, or the law enforcement has to protect the investigation. As much as we want to know everything and we want to know it right now, they're charged with, just for Nancy, for her sake, we're trying to protect all the evidence.
Well, it is an insanely high-profile case. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody that. If they're watching this podcast, they know it. To that end, what do you make of the activity outside the house yesterday? All the folks showing up in blue suits.
Does she have a YouTube channel? What's the name of her show? I don't remember. I thought they mentioned it.
And walking around the perimeter and walking inside, and the black SUVs with the tinted window, one of them going into the garage, and the garage door coming down and then it leaving quickly an hour later. Like, what's your read on all the activity?
For that garage door, by the way, 11 seconds to go up, 11 seconds to come down, because I'm always thinking about that garage door and that 2 minutes and her getting in the house. And I always think whoever dropped her off had to go out a different door, because that's just not enough time.
Really?
To open the garage door, have Nancy walk in, because the police chief said initially
2 minutes. Yeah.
2
Door
minutes,
went up,
but
2 minutes later it came down.
family members got her in the house, got her settled, and got out. You can't do that in that amount of time with an 84-year-old woman with mobility issues. So I timed that. But
yeah, well.
I think it was probably Savannah in the SUV, in the black SUV that was with the smoked out windows, that they went into the garage and closed the door. And she was probably going in there. If they're operating, since the sheriff has completely cleared everyone in the family and anyone related to them. I mean, whatever. We're not going to get into that, but maybe they're operating under the assumption that this is some sort of a stalker situation. And if that's the case, the things that would be missing would be Savannah's personal items that might be in her room, like old photos or who knows what. People in situations like this are obviously uber creepy, but they could have just wanted photos of her or some memento that made him or him feel like, she's my girlfriend or something. So
That's
maybe
a
she
really
just went up
good
into.
point. I never thought of that they might have said, we need to go in and assess the inside of the house to see the things that might be missing that maybe we overlooked because it wasn't valuables.
Right. Well,
Yes, it is. But yes, they still have Annie's Okay, so she's got a podcast.
Initially, you're going to look for valuables because that's your assumption. At first blush, that's what this looked like. It's someone who it's a kidnapping and kidnapped for ransom, but that turned out not to be the case, or who knows what this is going to shake out to be, because it's just nothing any of us have ever seen before. But then if you move to someone is stalking her, it would make sense that they're going to take some trophies from her, or what people call trophies. So maybe they had her go in to see what was missing. She was also there not long ago when her mom did that show. And, so they already got what Annie and her husband walked them through the house initially.
No, I think
And so
did.
they allowed them to tell them what was askew, this is exactly how it always is. Mom keeps her iPad here. That's where it is. This is out of place. This isn't.
That would
But
be the morning that you're talking about, Sunday morning when they
yes,
called for help.
exactly. Sorry. So yeah, that morning
Yeah,
they were able to
the
walk law
New York
enforcement through
Times,
the
right?
house. So
I read
today,
I've read so much.
I think they wanted,
days.
my guess, it's just an assumption, but my guess is they wanted Savannah to walk through and see if there's anything she could find that was missing or askew or
Well, this is this one gets asked a lot. Why would a burglar come in there with a packed backpack? But what if this was after? Like, are we sure that? I mean, do we know that that's when they came in, or that's when they were coming in, or could it have been after, or yeah, I don't know.
whatever, because the person spent 41 minutes in there, and that's a long, long time.
Well, I keep wondering if they did. We only know that the camera was tampered with, but we don't know if that meant that the person entered the house at the time they tampered with the camera. I'm not sure. I'm still, my jury's out on that one. I don't know when they actually entered the house. We don't know the entry time. We just know the separation of the pacemaker time. So I'm curious about that. What do you make of the report that I was able to get from another law enforcement source that the blood droplets inside the house were the same pattern as the blood droplets outside the house, meaning there wasn't a sign of struggle, there wasn't footprints through them. It was more just the same droplet pattern that we witnessed, on the video outside the house.
Well, wherever she was bleeding from, the blood droplets were able to drop then, just drop straight down. And because the ones on the porch were all round and appeared to, I didn't get a good enough look at them, but they'll be able to tell, the blood experts will be able to tell exactly how far these droplets fell and whether they came from her mouth or not, because if it came from her mouth, they'll be able to find saliva and other things in there. Just the whole thing is just, we do everything in our lives to just treat the vulnerable members of our community the best way we can. And then to have something like this happen, it just breaks everyone's hearts. I
think it's why everyone's watching so intently, why it's so high profile. It's not just that it's Savannah's mom, it's just who does something like this, that part of the story. I was not able to find out from my source where in the house those blood droplets were, but my source did say that there were a couple things that stood out to them. That was number one, the front doorbell cam gone. My original source, different source, had said smashed. Back door wide open, blood droplets on the ground, and that the immediate reference was to tell.
Yeah, but do we trust her source?
All the responding units got to get out of here. Do not contaminate the scene. This is more to it than a missing woman who might have wandered off. So I don't know if that means
so
that
strange.
those blood, that the blood droplets may have been right there in that front entrance area because they were able to witness the door open, or whether they canvassed around the house and saw the blood droplets somewhere there. I can't tell you that. It would be helpful to know where the blood droplets were, though. And then couple that information with Savannah using the words in her video a couple days ago, where she announced that the reward would be $1 million from the family. She used the words, "My mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed, taken from her bed in the dark of night. And I didn't know if she was, literal or if it was literal. And Savannah is a journalist and she is a broadcaster and she knows words matter. It was the same terminology the sheriff used early on, and then walked back the next day saying, I didn't think you'd take me literally. It was just being figurative. But if Savannah was being literal and not figurative, that's a big piece of information that Nancy Guthrie
Savannah's not going to be figurative.
That's what I thought. Taken from her bed.
Yes, and the other reason I would
It sounds like somebody told her that she was taken from her bed.
guess that the blood was in the bedroom is because Annie and her husband were probably looking around the house and maybe not looking at that other side of the bed where the slider door is, but her mom had hearing issues. And if the person was yelling commands at her, she would not be able to hear them. And that may have been what caused whatever injury she had, because they thought she was ignoring them or whatever, and even trying to yank on her or something to get her out of the bed. And she had to, put her hearing aids in, because I know I have a sister that can't hear without her hearing aids. And I mean, she can't hear anything. And so it's frightening. First of all, to be that frightened. Secondly, to not have your hearing aids in and you can't even communicate. It's just the worst case scenario.
Well, and Maureen, the New York Times did a piece talking to Nancy Guthrie's friends. And one of the friends said that she had recently begun using powerful hearing aids, which you're spot on. Her hearing would be very compromised if she was using powerful, those are the words used, hearing aids.
Yep. She's 84. It happens.
Let's talk a little bit about there's so much sleuthing going on online, and there's an image, if you zoom in on the perpetrator's pocket, there's something sticking out of the perpetrator's pocket. I thought at first it was the corner of an iPhone, but as I read through a lot of other folks who've put in their thoughts, some said it looked like maybe a lockpick pen, which I didn't realize. I mean, it stands to reason. A lockpick pen kind of looks like it might be that, or maybe even a walkie-talkie, which some people have said, well, that suggests that this person was working with an accomplice.
Yeah, because people talk to walkie-talkies to themselves. The guy from Nancy's show, he calls in from a walkie-talkie. Breaker 19. This is Nancy Grace's guest calling from the outhouse.
It could be a lockpick, I guess, but it looks to me, and I'm pardon me while I look down here, but it looks to me to be just a radio, like a radio antenna. I'm looking for that one.
Like a walkie-talkie?
Yep, like a walkie-talkie, because these guys didn't have phones on them. If they had phones on them and the Bureau didn't pick them up, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But if you look at that, if you look at some of these walkie-talkies that people have, you could call the car up without using your phone. You could tell your buddy, hey, pull it up into the Circle Drive now. And yeah, just like these.
Sure.
Yeah, those ones
I still every
that
time
we were talking about earlier.
Do you think that very very small?
I still the walkie-talkie naming of the walkie-talkie has always bothered me. Couldn't have came up with a better name?
Area of an image looks like the antenna of a walkie-talkie, more so than the edge of a phone.
Much more so than the edge of a phone. And I asked my husband, who
well, you walk with it and you talk with it.
Was a police officer for 38 years.
You could do a little bit of both at the same time. Maybe a little walkie, a little talkie.
And he said, that's absolutely a radio. And I said, babe, we can't say that. That's just conjecture. And he goes, I carried a radio for 38 years. I know what it looks like. And it stands just like that when it's in your pocket. And you can't zip the pocket all the way closed because you have to have the antenna. You can fit an iPhone in any pocket. I mean, if that's the top of an iPhone, you're not going to let your iPhone hang out like that, because the last thing you want is to get into a struggle with someone and leave your iPhone at the crime scene. But this, you can cinch it up just to the just over the top of the radio portion and let the antenna stick out of your pocket.
Well, that would be huge if it was determined that this is a radio, because it does certainly speak to the possibility of somebody else being a part of this.
Right.
Sometimes I just, in my own personal thoughts, I hope there was an accomplice, and then I know it's not necessarily a sexual crime, because so few sexual crimes would involve an accomplice. And
what, are we in trouble? Are you sending us to bed?
People
don't kid
who
yourself.
Really,
people are savages.
Yeah, she's right.
I mean, I know, and most people who don't live the world that you and I live, and you more so than me, would say, well, who would think to sexually assault an 84-year-old woman? And unfortunately, so many times in our, line of work, we see it. We just do. We see people who just do, and they're not off limits. The elderly are not off limits.
I think it's a two-way radio, right?
That's for these kinds of crimes, which is just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, but sometimes it doesn't actually involve an essay on the person. Sometimes just the fear you see in someone's face gives you sexual gratification. That's a whole different story, but that happens all the time too. Sometimes they just get off on the fear. Unbelievable.
Okay, last question. It may seem like it's kind of a small thing, usually an afterthought, an asterisk, whatever, but the sheriff yesterday put parking restrictions in place, no parking on either side of the street, all up and down where Nancy Guthrie lives. And again, that may seem like nothing to people until you realize the logistics of what it takes to broadcast from a location. And that location has been a broadcast location for 26 days. Is this the sheriff trying to get rid of the media on this story? Or is there some other legitimate reason you can see why that would happen? That kind of a restriction would be, get out of here. You can't have your gear here. You can hump it from blocks away to set up your camera location, but you can't park here, and you can't use your vehicle for shelter or power or temperature control, any of that. What would you see as the reason for this?
I see a number of, I see a number of things that could be happening, but then they're saying that they're turning the house over to the Guthrie family again. When I first heard this, my first thought was they're going to come in with a forensics team and go over the entire house. And even though it would be it would be really, really difficult for the prosecution, if they could maybe find 3 or 4 other points with some good DNA in there, because no one's been in the house, even though it hasn't been sealed or anything. No one else has been in the house. And the press has been around there pretty much the whole time. I mean, I don't know. I would give it another shot before I would turn it over to the family. I would look at every.
But I mean, the reporters are still there. The reporters can still be there. They just can't
but they're not going to be there as long. They can't.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Is the sheriff? I wondered if it was punitive. Get the hell out of here. You've been horrible to me. Or if it was really strategic. If there's some I just don't see a lot of strategy.
I hope there's a strategy.
Doing this.
I hope it's a strategy, and I hope it involves an evidence response team getting in there and just going bananas. Because the one thing you want if you bring a big team in there is you want the whole street. You want everybody to be able to park their vehicles, have all their stuff, open their trunks, without people, all up in their business. The same thing like you talked about with those tarps that they were holding up. Nobody likes to work under those conditions, because a lot of this type of work requires, especially if you have younger people on the scene, they'll say, so for a scene like this, do you think it's better to use this or that? And you can't have anyone else hear that, because then you're going to get ripped apart on the stand. Because sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, do I use these cotton gloves under these nitrile gloves, or do you think I should use this other one because you sweat a lot? And someone with experience would be able to just say, you do this. It's what law enforcement is. We help out and mentor the younger generation, and so if it was something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's something like that, I'd be so happy, because even though it would be a long, hard road, I think they could get a lot from it. I don't know what the search and evidence collection actually looked like those first 48 hours, and I've seen how well the Pima County Sheriff deputies are working with the FBI. They're all getting along great at the boots on the ground, but it's usually just the managers that are fighting with each other, or the hires up.
Listen,
But
I don't know this business as well as you guys do, but I am just astounded that the bracket for the Nest Cam was left on the house, because if that guy had a bite light in his mouth, the only way to get a bite light in and out of your mouth is to take it, put it in, or
and you've
take
got
it out
saliva
with your
everywhere. I've been
hands.
saying that since the beginning.
And your hands are then messing with that camera and bracket. And
I bet I could do it with my foot. I think I could.
the only thing left behind was the bracket. So I just didn't understand why that bracket wasn't taken in the first place. And then what do you
Plus
know?
the rug
2 weeks
on
later
the
it was.
The rug.
The Half Moon rug was there. It was left behind. The foliage that had dropped below. I mean, I really hope what you're saying is right, is that a massive evidence response team is going to come in. Not so much for the prosecution. I get it. There's
Yeah, I think I could. I think I could probably get a bite light out of my mouth with my foot.
a lot of chance for some of that ship to have sailed. But to find her, that's the number one priority. Find her. And then prosecute after. I get it. It's important. But the most important thing is just find her, whatever it takes.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of bees buzzing around. Just this since Savannah offered up that $1 million money reward. Yeah, thanks. Sorry. But if no one comes forward for $1 million, what does that tell you?
That the people that could collect on it are the ones that are implicated in the crime?
They can't, because they're the person who did it.
Hell yeah, dude.
I mean, when
I got it. I nailed it.
There's two or more, they're in a pressure cooker right now. One knows that the other one could pull the plug on them, and vice versa. And right now they've got nothing. They didn't get anything out of this.
Maureen, it's great talking to you. I'm just so thankful that you take time out of your busy day. And I know you had a 12-hour day today, so I'm really thankful. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So there you have it.
All right, guys. There you have it. That's it for me too. Let's see. I went to bed watching you, and now I'm waking up to you. Well, good evening, good night, and good morning. Thank you. Yep, still alive. About to not be, but yeah, I just listen to everything on this case. I don't know why I have to. It's just got me by the. It's just I figure if I'm gonna watch it, I might as well watch it with you guys, right? I know, late night shaming, dude. I'm tired of it. What it's not even 3:00 in the morning here yet, is it? It's close. Very close. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for everything. Let me see. I enjoy talking to you guys, interacting with you. So thank you so much for that. And we'll be back. Have a good weekend. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully it's solved tomorrow, huh? All right, guys. Take care.
was actually just sitting down to pee, but but whatever,